Give him a few minutes to walk to his chair. So this evening we had an early meeting at 5:30 where we were talking about real property and whether or not what we felt about it. And so we have nothing to report out on it, but in the future it might be fun. So with that, I would like to read the land acknowledgement and welcome all of you to our meeting this evening. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the lands we are located on are the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known as the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous people from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. And with that, we'd like to rise and salute the flag. Please join me. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Stillman,
Present.
Vice Mayor White,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. This evening, we do not have any ceremonial matters, but we do have a report by our commission and committee, and I'd like to welcome you. We have the annual report from the Transportation Safety Committee, and our chair, Genevieve, is going to present it. Thank you, Genevieve.
Good evening, Council. My name is Genevieve Cerna. I'm the chair for the Arcata Transportation Safety Committee, for those of you that are unfamiliar. The committee is formed of myself, our vice chair, Karina Johnson, Wendy Ring, Mishka Streka, Peggy Martinez, Nia Tico, as well as our staff liaison, Nitra Cautry, David Case, and Mara Groh. So just a thank you to all of them for their participation in this committee throughout the year. If you are not familiar with what our committee does, our committee's primary function is to review all transportation matters and to make recommendations to council commissions and city staff as appropriate. Between August 2024 and September of this year, we held 7 regularly scheduled meetings. Most notably, we received public written oral communication touching on various subjects such as the community's requests for traffic calming throughout the city, calls for improved pedestrian crossings and pedestrian infrastructure, as well as addressing bicycle safety issues. Generally, the TSC seeks to make recommendations that would allow for more pedestrian and active transportation infrastructure and safety around those types of builds throughout the city. That's kind of the primary goal of the recommendations that we make. We've also incorporated some new reports and then continuing to analyze reports that we'd received in previous years. We've transitioned from having our collision data reports given to us monthly, previously by Lieutenant Dockweiler, now to a quarterly reporting done by Lieutenant Luke Scown. We've also incorporated a quarterly reporting of street stories, and I think most excitingly, we're now using those quarterly reports in like an end of year data compiling that we'll use to recommend some actual projects for the engineering department to look into. So that's kind of a really cool, tangible way that our committee's been able to utilize those reports. Some of those projects that had been recommended in this last year, our first kind of time really itemizing projects that we would like to see, were just miscellaneous high visibility crosswalks throughout the city of Arcata, most notably near Union and 17th, 11th and Q, Alliance and Foster, and Alliance and Spear, a four-way stop sign at 11th and Q, safety improvement to Janes and Hyndon Road, as well as safety improvements to Gentoli Lane from Valley West to Boyd Road. The committee also wants to discuss further improvements to K Street, but we realize that K Street is kind of its own project and kind of has its own recommendations currently being reviewed. So that did get left off of this shorter list of recommendations that we had made for this year. For transit reporting, we used to receive transit reports from Nature Cottery, but in this last year, the Arcata Mad River Transit System was taken over by the HTA. So we definitely encourage the public to attend the HTA meetings, to hear about updates for transit services throughout our city, and to make recommendations and requests for improvement to that transit system now that it's under their jurisdiction. But we did want to make, while it was still being reported to us, did want to note that the green and gold bus routes continue to see high ridership, exceeding 80,000 annual trips by mid-2024, and generally just to encourage increased use of the bus services by the public and not just Cal Poly Jack Pass holders. For this upcoming year, I did want to highlight a couple of our goals. I won't list every single one of them to you, but maybe the ones that are kind of top of mind. We want to continue to recommend and prioritize traffic calming projects, as previously stated, on Union, K Street, and 11th Street, and also to focus on areas near local schools, to review and update Arcata's pedestrian and bicycle master plan, which has not seen an update in quite some time. To support the completion of the SAMSIT project and other multimodal improvements, to support the implementation of AB 43, the speed limit policy, through subcommittee action and city council action, to support the implementation of AB 413, the daylighting of intersections, and to examine further K Street and 11th Street improvements, and to provide input on the Sunset and US 101 interchange project. That was a pretty exciting report to receive, and some good improvements to that area. It's exciting stuff. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anyone on the council like to bring anything forward to them or have any comments? Well, I want to thank you for your report, but I wanted to let you know that the Humboldt Transit Authority, when they have their meetings, which is the first Wednesday of the month at 9:00, it is also on Zoom. So anybody wishing on your committee to be able to watch that can do that easily. They can just pick up the Zoom link through HTA. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I know we had somebody come for our last two meetings. They were interested in permit parking up by the new dorms. I'm assuming that's come to you also.
Yes, we have received public comment within the last 2 to 3 months, specifically speaking to public parking near the new dorms at the.
I think it's on I Street.
There we go, I Street.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is.
EYE.
Yes, EYE, I Street. So that is something that our committee's been made aware of and will likely agendize here pretty shortly.
And so the other thing, I'm just going to mention one other. You mentioned K Street, and I always think of the L Street corridor, and that would be a perfect place for us to be able to have our bicycle transportation on that area because it doesn't have cars to speak of. And so I just wanted to bring that forward. And I wanted to thank you very much for the presentation. Please thank the committee. We appreciate all their work and their thoughts and what's going on. So Thank you very much, Genevieve.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll move on to staff reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to city business and shall not request or lead to action by the council at this meeting. A, receive an update from the Deputy Director of Community Development, Jennifer Dart, regarding the city's annual, we call it RENA numbers, but it's annual Arcata Regional Housing Needs Allocation Methodology. So should we start with that, and then we'll go to our second report. So thank you.
Sure. So I have a PowerPoint that I'll share here. Bear with me just a second.
And by the way, that's a lovely picture or photograph.
I don't know who took it, but I also agree. It's a lovely picture. So good evening. I'm going to give you a brief overview of our regional housing needs allocation process that we're going through right now for this 7th cycle housing element. I know that most of you are pretty familiar, so I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Oh, sorry, I'm not close enough. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? This is a state mandated general plan element. We have to plan for housing needs across all income levels. We have to update our housing element every 8 years. We're required to by the State Housing and Community Development Department, which is HCD. We're currently in our 6th cycle, and we're planning for our 7th cycle. So the process that we're in right now is the State Housing and Community Development Department determines the housing need for our Humboldt region, and they give that allocation to the Humboldt County Association of Governments, or HCOG. They allocate that need that they've been given, so that number, that overall number, to all of the jurisdictions in the county. And from there, the city of Arcata adopts a housing element which plans for that allocated number of housing units. So the current timeline that we're in is in July, the state released that housing need number. HCOG's currently working on a method to distribute that need. We'll be bringing this to you on November 19th, but on November 20th and December 18th, you'll see that it also goes to the HCOG's board for discussion and then also for the final allocation, the final approval of allocation. The next steps in the process will be HCD reviewing and approving that methodology, and then the city developing and adopting our new updated housing element. So the state released the RHNA allocation numbers in July. It's a pretty big number. It's 2,000 more than what we had in the last allocation cycle, and it's the same time period. So it's an 8-year period that we have to plan for. Per city council direction, staff advocated for a 50% jobs, 50% housing methodology, which was the most advantageous for the city, but also still accepts our fair share of allocation. So you'll see that number here. That's the number that we're working with currently, and we anticipate will be going forward with HCOG or going forward for approval to HCD. So what does that look like for Arcata? It's a really big increase. It's a 71% increase in our RHNA goal. So going from 610 to 1,042. This is definitely a challenge. Another way to look at that is comparing it with the last few cycles. So if you look at it from the 6th cycle, that would have been about 76 units per year in order to meet that. And we're on track to do so. Over the past 6 years, we've had about 84 dwelling units on average, if you average the whole time. And it's not been 84 per year, so I want to be specific about that. It goes up and down every year, but that would be what our average was right now. And I wanted to highlight that without the deed restricted low income units, we would only be at 47 dwelling units per year. So those units really did help us in this cycle. So this graphic shows the very large increase that we're seeing in the low income categories. I wanted to highlight this as well because there's 2 new categories that are being added this cycle, which is the acutely low and extremely low income categories. This does represent a very large increase to the number of units that we need to plan for in these categories. And also is a challenge because, and I'll talk about some of this in the future slides, but it's also a challenge to come up with funding mechanisms that meet at least that acutely low category. So how are we doing right now compared to the rest of the county? This is something that I wanted to highlight, and I couldn't get this graphic to come out much better than this, but the light blue and the dark blue are very low and low income categories. So you can see that we're doing, above and beyond what other jurisdictions in our area are doing in those categories. So we've met both of those numbers, or we're very close to meeting low income. We're like 5 off right now, but we probably will meet those this year. So we're doing really well in that category, in those categories. And we're doing really well overall. There's another slide that I couldn't get to come out quite as well that shows how we're doing overall number wise compared to the other jurisdictions, and we're just it's above and beyond where everyone else is. I mean, you can see the county's just a little bit over us, and their allocation's significantly larger than ours. So we're doing really well right now, but it's definitely going to be harder to meet this new 7th cycle goal. And then I'm going to talk about some of the challenges. I'm going to read these because I know this is a lot of information there, but the first challenge that we're facing is funding for affordable housing and homeless services is declining at both the federal and state level. So even as HCD increases the number of low-income units jurisdictions must plan for, this creates a major mismatch between planning requirements and available funding. This cycle, HCD also requires jurisdictions to plan for acutely low-income households, which I was discussing before, but this particular income category, 0 to 15%, often is most realistically housed in shelters and transitional housing options, which don't count towards our RHNA. So if we were to do something that would increase the capacity for those, we wouldn't be able to count them towards our RHNA. So this needs to be permanent housing that we're counting. Existing state and federal programs also only fund housing down to a 30% AMI, so between 0 and 30%. So there's a disconnect because there's not a category right now for those funding sources from 0 to 15. Not to say that HCD won't make a correction to that. We're the first, the County of Humboldt's the first jurisdiction in the 7th cycle. So I would assume that someone at HCD will probably notice that there is this disconnect and hopefully add that category to some of their funding sources. But as it currently stands, that's definitely going to be a challenge, is to come up with ways to implement that. The other thing that's concerning is deeply subsidized housing at this level is going to require ongoing operational subsidies and vouchers, and those are also being significantly reduced on the federal level. And so there's a big concern there with how these types of projects would pencil at that really deep targeted level. The next challenge that we face is Arcata's main strategy for meeting RHNA targets is our infill development. But one identified infill site, the former Craftsman's Mall, was purchased by Cal Poly and developed into new student housing, which is great. The project's going to house about 1,000 students, but unfortunately, it doesn't count towards Arcata's RHNA goals. So we're not able to count any of these units, even though this project will free up older multifamily and single-family rentals for the broader community, which is going to ease housing market pressures. So excluding student housing from RHNA calculations overlooks a key housing solution, especially in university towns like ours. Lastly, I just wanted to highlight the vacant sites inventory. So Arcata is largely built out, similar to Eureka. We have a lot of the same problems, so we commiserate together quite frequently, but we're very limited with our vacant land remaining for new development. As a result, most future housing opportunities needs to occur through infill development and redevelopment rather than greenfield construction. However, HCD's requirements for jurisdictions to requires jurisdictions to demonstrate adequate vacant sites in their housing element. And this is often at odds with the state's broader infill and climate goals, which emphasize compact, transit-oriented growth and efficient use of existing urban land. So why does it matter? If we don't certify our housing element, there's several different things that can happen. We would have to potentially switch from an 8-year cycle to a 4-year cycle. Housing elements are not cheap to put together and there is no funding. So it's an unfunded mandate from the state that we put this together every 8 years. Doing so on a 4-year cycle would definitely be more expensive. We would run into builder's remedy, so we couldn't deny affordable housing projects regardless of consistency with city standards. I'm going to skip to the next one. The next one is RHNA compliance affects access to state housing funds. So a lot of different state funding, you're not able to even apply, and then you potentially will score lower if you're not meeting your housing element requirements or you don't have a certified housing element. The last one, I should have put this in a different order, is that we could get sued by the state. It's not likely, but it is something that can happen and has happened to other jurisdictions. So it's something that I did want to share because it can be expensive. They can fine us on a daily basis. So I would have probably switched those because it's the most unlikely of them all to happen, but sorry about that. So what can we do? I don't want to leave on a negative note. We're going to get creative because we are creative. I think Arcata continues to be a forward-thinking community. We're working currently on our Valley West infill area. We've discussed the single-stair building code reform at our planning commission, and that's something that our director is also very interested in the future. We're going to continue to encourage ADUs. We have an award-winning general plan and gateway area plan. So that's already been, we're going to continue to build upon that. That's already something that's there for us to build upon. But we also need to push for RENA reform. We need to better reflect true community needs. And we need to ensure that there's adequate implementation support and funding for these requirements that the state is putting out, because right now there isn't. And so really considering pushing back on some of these things. For instance, the number that we received, our population is projected to go downward. It's not projected to go up. And we're still receiving almost double the allocation. So that's definitely a big concern. It's like, why is there that mismatch in our rural communities? So with that, oh, and alignment with climate goals. That's another thing that just is maddening with some of the requirements.
Just for
Any questions?
explanation, do you want to explain that building that you just had on there and how that works within a community? Thank you. In case anyone is wondering.
Yeah, just briefly, this is an image of a single-stair building. Currently, building code requires that if you go above 3 stories, I think it is, that you have 2 stairwells to service that building. So you take up a lot of the building footprint with stairs, hallways, and those types of non-livable spaces. A single-stair building type can allow for a more compact project. And so what you see here is effectively 10 units on a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot parcel. So a regular single family sized parcel that can develop, 5 times the amount of housing that they were typically designed for. And it's a great way to, get that density without having to have, larger format buildings, mid-rise and that sort of thing. So just in brief, we did talk about this at our joint Planning Commission City Council study session a little bit, and we gave you an update then. And just as a refresher, the state fire marshal is currently looking at these designs and is going to advise as to how to change the building code to allow for them. And some cities, like Culver City's already adopted this as a local option for them. I think it's the first city in California that's done so.
And what it does is when you go to a hotel and you have a long corridor and rooms going off of it, when you have 2 stairwells on either side, that's what it creates. Whereas something with a single stairway really makes it more functional and much more better for our community. Anyway, would anyone like to ask questions on this, please?
I did.
Yes.
I was hoping I could get some clarification. So we have the new acutely low, extremely low, or very low, and then low. And is that like one number representing them all, or to each one are itemized in there?
Maybe you want to go back to that
Yeah, I can go back
slide.
to that slide. Sorry. So I put the little box around that shows all of the low income categories together, but they're separated out.
That's what I thought.
So
Okay.
acutely low would be 90, that would be our allocation.
Okay.
Extremely low would be 135.
And not necessarily related to this, but is it possible, I know that we changed to 70% for the West Village Studios for, I'm wondering if we might consider doing the same in that, since we're doing so well already in, extremely low and low, would that perhaps move some things if we went to like 70% like we did with the West Village?
It won't change our allocation. So this is the allocation that we need to plan for over the next 8 years.
Okay.
So even though we've done really well in some of
We
those
don't get brownie
categories,
points for that.
we don't get brownie points for that. So this is going to be most likely our new allocation.
And congratulations on doing such a great job on our 6th cycle. And hopefully we can get some reform and make it a little bit more realistic for our community.
Thank you. Are there Any other comments or questions on this from anyone on the council? Yes.
I'll keep it short. We've actually, some of us have talked about RENA a lot today and other meetings, but just I think there is starting to build a consensus with Humboldt being one of the first counties that are getting these numbers and seeing the changes that, we're very pro housing and we want to continue to provide housing, but it also needs to be done in a way that is achievable. And so we're hoping we can get some professionals, like community development directors and others that are really in the weeds on this every day to maybe be able to be a part of that reform to get some practicality. So it will be a long journey and we're just starting to make noise about it, but here we are.
Thank you. Do you have anything? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation and bringing the world to us about what we're going to have to be looking forward to and how maybe we can make some changes or not. So thank you. I appreciate your presentation. So we'll go on to our next is receive a presentation from Bartell Wells Associates on the results of the City of Arcata's water and wastewater rate study. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice
Good
Mayor,
evening.
City Council, members of the public and staff. I will be joined by my colleague who is actually with Bartle Wells, Eric Helgenson, but I wanted to take just a few minutes to do a big picture summary of sort of what we're talking about tonight because there is quite a bit of information. There's lots of numbers if you looked at the presentation that was included in the packet. And I just wanted to take just a couple minutes to focus the council on a few things and some decisions and give you a few things to think about as we walk through Bartle Wells and Associates presentation. So this is a staff report tonight, so it's for information review. There's no action requested. We wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to look at the information, ask questions, and then the expectation is that if you have individual questions that you want additional information for, please let me know. We can reach out to Eric and kind of make sure that that's provided at the next meeting, which is tentatively scheduled based on your agreement on November 5th. Kind of big picture. So the rate studies for both water and wastewater cover 5 years. So it will propose rate changes for a 5-year period, but it's based on 10-year financial plans. So we're looking long term. The rate increases, especially for the water fund utility, are completely driven by needed infrastructure improvements. And what that means is if the only real way that you'll be able to change the rate increases in that fund are to look at potentially reducing the capital investment. We are presenting 2 separate rate scenarios for water tonight. One is what we're calling the immediate revenue recovery. So you'll see a very large amount up front. The second scenario is the phased in revenue recovery, which means it's phased in over that 5-year period. But I do want to point out, and you'll see this when you look at the numbers, that ends up with a 5% higher rate at the end of 5 years than the upfront ratio. So there are some trades that happen there. The other thing is just to put it out there before we get started so everybody's aware. When you look at your the first year of the proposed rates, the combined water and wastewater bill, and we are keeping the wastewater bill, which is about 2/3 of the total, flat with no increases for the first couple years. It'll be a 14% increase or $19 a month, $19.01 per month for that immediate revenue recovery. The phased in will be 11% the first year, or it's about $8.88, and that's for a single family, the average single family home. Just one final slide that I think kind of puts it in perspective. One of the challenges that we're looking at is that we have not really invested in the water utilities, for quite a while. In fact, I've gone back and looked at financial statements back to the early 90s, and in the early 90s was the last significant investment we had until just a couple years ago. And so we really just sort of used the what was in place and didn't really keep up with our replacement schedules. I took all of the cities here on the graph that we are going to show you comparable rates and bills in the presentation, and I added their net assets as of their fiscal year 23-24 financial statements, which is the most current available with the exception of Humboldt CSD and Willits that I had to go back a year or two to look at. But you can see of all those comparable jurisdictions, we have just over $6 million in net assets in our water fund, and we are well below all of the other jurisdictions, and that kind of just reflects that long time period where we didn't reinvest and didn't replace the infrastructure. And again, those decisions were made to let things ride, but it put us in a position today where we have more replacement than we probably expected at this point in time. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Eric and let him share the screen. Okay. Eric, if you can share your screen and join us.
All right.
There we go. And I'll let you also reintroduce yourself.
Great. Well, thank you, Tabitha. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Eric Helgeson. I'm a principal with Bartle Wells Associates, and I manage this project. Today, I'm going to give an overview of the rate study process. I'll talk about Prop 218, which is one of the main laws that drives the recommendations we make, and go into the recommendations for the water and the wastewater enterprises, talk about next steps, and turn it over for questions. The rate study, there's two significant ones. One, financial sufficiency. The city, and we really appreciate all the input from city staff, finance, engineering, but the main objective is to make sure that the rates can fund both the operating and ongoing annual costs and operating costs, debt service, and also fund the capital projects that have been identified as necessary for the enterprises. So that's the primary goal of figuring out what the rates need to fund. Then we also need the rates to be legally compliant. As I said, primarily driven by Prop 218, and I'll talk about that more a little later. We want the rates to be aligned with city objectives, funding infrastructure, providing the essential services, and also minimize the impact on ratepayers. So looking at, on the water side especially, there's some significant adjustments that need to be made, and what's the best way to do that. So the rate study process begins with collecting all of the data, compiling it into a financial plan. So collecting all the capital needs and operating costs, as I said, and then identifying the amount of rate revenue that's needed to fund those projects and the enterprise. Then we allocate those costs to different customer classes and rate categories based on what drives the cost. So it's the cost allocation, and under Prop 218, really cost allocation and rate design are pretty joined, ultimately coming up with the rate recommendations. And now the last part of the process, once we've identified the rates, is the Prop 218 process. So I'll go into that a little bit more here. There's substantive and procedural requirements. The substantive requirements really guide how we make recommendations. So the key points there are that rates cannot exceed the cost of providing service. Also, rates need to be proportionate to the cost of the service provided. So that guides a lot of the recommendations. And then there's the procedural requirements, which are how the steps you need to follow in order to raise the rates. So to raise rates, notices of the maximum rates that the governing body can adopt must be mailed out at least 45 days in advance of holding a public hearing. And if 50% plus one of property owners or customers submit a protest, then the rates as noticed cannot go forward. So that's the next step. When we come back on the 5th, we'll be looking to get authorization potentially to proceed with the Prop 218 process. So going into the water enterprise, it's a financially self-supporting enterprise. So rates are the main source of revenue and need to be set at the levels adequate to fund the cost of providing the service. The water enterprise provides service to about 6,600 customers, 60% of those being residential, 40% being commercial. There's some significant capital costs. There's about $36 million of capital over the next 5 years. And I'll point your attention to the first column, which is there's currently some significant projects underway that will need to be funded. So in the short term, you're looking at $12 million in fiscal year 25-26. The city did approve a loan from the sewer enterprise of about $3.5 million. However, even with that loan, rates reserves in the water enterprise would drop from about 9 million down to about 1.5 million, which really is below a prudent level of reserves. And so our recommendation is to go out and, after the rates are in place, look for a bond to fund this capital project and to then repay the sewer loan. But I will say that the sewer loan will be a very necessary bridge between, to cover capital costs until the rates are in place and you can go forward with that funding. But that's our short-term recommendation, looking at the kind of critical place of the enterprise funds with the magnitude of projects that are underway. Over the longer term, as I said, you're looking at the total of $36 million. A lot of it will need to be debt financed because of the state of the water enterprise. So you're looking at issuances of probably roughly $10 million, as I said, now, and then potentially another $20 million around 2028, 29, which would bring debt service up to about $2 million a year. So that's what's built into our financial plans. Other assumptions we have built in are ongoing cost inflation. We took a conservative approach to estimating inflation, want to use 4%, which is a bit higher than it is currently, but it's still fairly uncertain. Also want to make sure the enterprise maintains prudent reserves. This allows the enterprise to make it easier to borrow money if needed, and also reduces risk from emergencies. So as Tabitha said, we developed 2 scenarios to kind of get to where we need to be fiscally. And so these have different overall rate revenue increases. And it's important to note that what we're showing here is the total increase in revenue to the enterprise. We also have some cost of service recommendations to be more compliant with the substantive portions of Prop 218. And so in the first year, some bills will be different, some higher, some lower than the percentage we're showing for the overall revenue. The 2 scenarios really are looking at phasing in rates so scenario 1 is an immediate recovery, so getting everything that's needed now, and then not raising rates again until July 1 of 2028. So keeping on that fiscal year, so you do your first increase now and then come back next July, and then do 3 more increases. Whereas the other scenario is moving to calendar year phase in, and this allows the rates to be phased in a little more evenly on the calendar year. However, because rates are being phased in, you're not getting as much revenue up front. The final rate will need to be a bit higher than the scenario 1 option to achieve the financial goals. This shows a picture of the financial plan. The columns are the total expenses for the water enterprise in each year, broken into 3 categories: the capital funded by cash, debt service, and then your operating costs is the gray line. So the operating costs are just pretty steadily just continuing on with inflation, and the cash funded capital and the debt service is what changes. In this scenario, you have more revenue up front, build reserves a bit higher initially, and then can utilize those reserves. In the other scenario where it's a little more phased in, reserves are not built up as fast, and are then utilized at the end. But there's the real difference is, you have a little, your reserves are a little bit higher with scenario one, and the rates are a little bit lower at the end. So looking at the rates for scenario one, keep maintaining the same structure, a slight shift to a little bit more fixed recovery based on the cost of service adjustment, and then the first year would be for the volumetric rate would be 1033, and then going up to 1350 in the final year for the volumetric rate, and then the scenario two would go to 883 and end at 1412. So phased in, but a little bit higher at the end. How this compares to neighboring agencies, your current rates, the range is from 38.73 to 72, so that it's a somewhat tight range for some of the neighboring agencies. You're a little bit on the lower end, and then with the different options, you'll be in the middle or near the high end, as with inflation and other things. Many agencies are also increasing rates. I know Willits is still in a 5-year rate increase schedule. I think Humboldt is actually looking to increase domestic for their small domestic users as well, do a rate study for them. So that's the water enterprise, and I can go through the sewer rates. Oh, one other point, we are recommending to be more compliant with Prop 218, that all of your rates are the same. So basically removing the differential for outside city customers and just having the same rates for all water customers that's proportional to the cost of service. So moving on to the wastewater enterprise.
Excuse me, could I just interrupt for a moment? You
Yes.
have down here 5 3/4. Is that residential and 1 inch and 1.5? I'm just wondering, maybe.
Most residential customers are 5/8 and 3/4, correct?
So is 1 inch commercial?
For the most part, I believe there are some residential that are 1 inch, but if there's, sorry, I heard someone talking, so I apologize if I talked over someone.
No, you aren't talking over anyone.
Oh, good. Yes, I believe there are some residential that might have a 1 inch, and sometimes there's some fire flow. So 1 inch can have some overlap with residential, but the vast majority of residential are 5/8 and 3/4.
I just think that would be wise for us to have an idea which is which. So thank you.
No problem. It's driven by flow and demand needs. I think, and it's almost I'll need to double check the actual percentage, but I believe it's above 95% that are 5/8 and 3/4. So it's almost 100% of residential, but you do have also smaller commercial that are also in that 5/8 3/4 category as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions about water before I move on to wastewater?
I see none. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So wastewater is also self-supporting enterprise where rates are the main source of revenue. It serves 5,600 accounts, primarily residential accounts. There's about 4,900 residential, 700 commercial. Wastewater still has significant capital capital needs, and a bit more, consistent over the next 5 years as well. The about $51.4 million over the next 5 years. The wastewater system will also need to issue debt to fund about half of the amount, if the projects are able to be carried out on this schedule. We also are assuming to have the same inflation assumption built into the wastewater model and the same targeting and maintaining prudent reserves. We recommend about a year of operating costs in reserve as the target, some years above or some years below. This is the figure showing the financial plan for the wastewater enterprise. Again, the columns are the total expense in a year, and then the green line is the revenue, and the dotted line is the reserve level. And for wastewater, we're recommending not raising rates for the first 2 years, and then raising rates after that at a 6.5% level. There is a spike in the green line, and that's a reflecting projected development fee revenue. It's not a rate revenue spike. So no increases for in this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, but in July 1 of 2028 would be when the first recommended increase would take place. But we are recommending some changes to the rate structure. And when you don't have a rate increase, it's a good time to update your rate structure, because anytime you make a change to it, there'll be some customers who see their bills go up and some that go down. So when you aren't doing that on top of an increase to the rates, it's a better time to do that. The main recommendation is for single family to move to just a fixed rate structure without a volumetric component. Currently, there's a 4 units included with the base rate, so there's a floor, and then there's a cap based on winter consumption that's added on top of it. For most customers, their average winter use is 5, so you have a floor of 4 and a ceiling of 5. So it's not doing much. And the cap also was only in place currently between June and September. So then many customers actually see their bills go up once the cap from last winter average use is removed. So it makes their bills a little bit unpredictable as well. So we're recommending that just to move to fixed structure. It'll be much easier for customers to predict and much easier for staff to administer and provide more stability in the revenues. We're also recommending a change to the commercial fixed charge. Currently, it's the same for all customer types, but some customers have higher strengths than others. There's a high, medium, and low strength class, and we just are recommending that the minimum charge also reflects those differences to be more defensible and in line with the proportionality requirements. So we think, especially with the residential recommendation, it'll make facilitate easier administration, easier to understand, and easier for both customers and the enterprise to plan for future costs or revenues. So the proposed rates would be moving from a base charge of $77.61 to a fixed charge of $86.24 for residential customers. And then moving away from having the $11.34 charge for volumetric rates for residential customers, and just having a flat fee of the $86.24 in the first year. Commercial customers would see their rates shift. Their volumetric rates would shift some of them would have a shift higher, and then their fixed rates would actually shift a bit lower. And so this will realign their low, medium, and high to be realigned with the cost of serving those different types of customers, and just make the rates more proportional with the cost of the benefit that each customer is receiving. So for residential customers, currently the average monthly use and the average bill for commercial customers is 5 units. So the base unit plus one unit of volumetric charge. So it's 86.24. So for most customers, I'm sorry, 88.95. And you can see that the volumetric component is that light green on top of the dark gray column here. So the proposed change would, for the average customer, have their rate go down to 86.24. And in the context of, and your sewer rates, you're funding your wastewater plant, are on the higher side, but really not outside of the norm by any means. And it's just really a lot of what drives these surveys are kind of, they give context, but there's a lot of nuance. I mean, as Tabitha was showing with on the water side, the different levels of investment, all have different economies of scale, age of infrastructure, other factors that impact the cost of providing service. So it's good to kind of get a high level, but beyond that, it's tough to read too much into your specific enterprise. This shows the comparison of the rates of the combined water and sewer bill. The water bill is the top, the blue, and then the sewer bill is at the bottom, the green or gray for the city's options. And so really driven by the how fast it's the phase in, which is option one. I mean, the immediate increase, which is option one, or the phase in, which is option two, kind of affects where you land. Most you'll see there's a pretty big cluster of customers: Humboldt, Willits, Ukiah, all near there, and both options will keep you in that cluster either on the low end or the high end of the cluster. So the next steps would be coming back to the council, getting authorization to send out Prop 218 notices, having the 45-day period, and then holding a public hearing, possibly on the 7th of January, and facilitating rates being effective in February 1. Part of the reason for the kind of the keeping things moving on schedule is really just the critical nature of the water fund, the needing to refinance that project that's already underway. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll turn it back for questions.
Thank you. So I'll bring it back to the council. Sarah, should we start down on the right? Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. That was a great presentation and it was helpful. And it's just, puts into play that thing that we've been hearing a lot, I feel like, throughout the last few years as a council, is that somebody didn't want to invest in something and now we're going to have to be the bad guy and invest in it. And, I have opinions about which option is better, but I don't think we're going to get into that right now. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Stacy?
I do have one question, but also thank you, Tabitha. I met with Tabitha earlier in the week, and she answered a host of questions for me. One thing, if you could just go back to slide 23, if you have access to that, where it's just the combined water and sewer.
Yes.
Is that, are those figures, is that the end of the first year or at the end of the final increases?
That's a good question. That's the end of the first year, and it is showing the because everyone's on a different schedule. So it starts to become kind of hard to do much of a comparison beyond that first year.
Okay.
As we
I would, yeah, because I think my initial understanding was that in the end, scenario one would end up costing the customers less and earning us a little bit more, but it's not reflected in this slide, but I think that's just because it's at the 1 year mark and not at the end.
Correct. Yes, and that's I think the scenario comparison shows it a bit. You see the ending reserves are a bit higher, and then there's less revenue. And then looking at the rates, it shows the final rates in slide 13 and 14. But yeah, unfortunately, it starts to be difficult to reasonably compare yourself to others because everyone's on a bit of a different rate increase cycle. Like, for example, I think Willits is on the last or second to last year, and they may not raise rates right away, or someone else may need to do a large increase and may not get to it for another 2 or 3 years. So it's just hard to extrapolate too much beyond the current year comparison.
Thank you. And yes, Tabitha did reiterate that to me, that this graph will change probably greatly year to year. So it's just a moment in time. Thank you for the presentation and the work that you did.
Problem.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the question.
Let's go to Meredith and to you last.
Okay. I don't really have any questions, but I just know that a lot of people are going to be watching this or out here that are going to be a little concerned, and especially since this is a staff report we're having right now, so we're not going to have public comment, but we are going to be bringing it back just at our next meeting to make sure that we hear everybody's input, because I know it's sometimes frustrating when you hear all this information and you can't comment on it.
Did
Can
you
I
want
add-
to clarify that?
And that is very true. I did want to add that in addition to, anytime we talk about this, obviously, and it's a business item, anybody can come and make public comment on the matter. The other thing that we will be having is an open house, after the notice goes out, where people can bring it in and actually have conversations with the consultant, the staff, and so that we can clarify the process, and then it will go through the public hearing on January 1st. So, I would certainly encourage people who are interested in this issue to pay attention. We'll also be posting once they're finalized and we get direction from council on sort of which of the scenarios and what you're comfortable with. We'll be posting the full reports on the website. So there is certainly much more information available. And we do want to make sure that there's plenty of process and that people pay attention through it and let you and us know where they stand. Thank you for that clarification, and thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Kim.
So I guess I'm having difficulty following the fixed rate, and I understand that you said it's less confusing. I guess my concern is that it doesn't feel very equitable. Those who use more water should pay for more water. And my concern is that maybe it would lead to people being wasteful. I know that I'm really careful and how much water I use. So that's my question.
Yes. So we're looking at on the wastewater side. So water customers are still going to be paying for what they use on a volumetric basis. However, on the wastewater side, I guess there's a few things. Wastewater, you're really just looking at what's going into the drain. So water use outside, like irrigation, isn't actually utilizing the wastewater system. So that's why you currently have a cap that's in place. And so the cap is based on your average winter use. And so essentially customers currently pay for 4 units already and flat in their fixed fee. And then they pay and there's a cap for certain months that's applied so they aren't paying for their irrigation water. So that cap is applied above the base. So for most customers right now, your cap is 5 units and your base is 4. So really the only opportunity to have volumetric use during the summer, at least, is 1 unit. So if they're on vacation, maybe they pay 1 unit less than they would. But then one thing we did notice is a number of customers because weather in your area is it's not as severe. People still do use water, and there's not that much difference between October and July. And so what we do see is actually the cap gets lifted in October, and a number of customers see their bills go up in that month. And so it's not, when we see that and it being higher than their winter use, it's likely not even going into the sewer. So we did see some equitability issues with the current rate structure. And given that for the most part, it is essentially a fixed rate structure already, but there's this complexity behind it, we felt that the fixed rate would be a more equitable, because a lot of the charges are likely not even for water going into the sewer, and residential use is fairly consistent as well. So that's why we felt it'd be a good recommendation, and also be easy for customers to predict their bill and not be surprised when the cap lifts from October to May. So that's the kind of the rationale behind it. And I will also say that the majority of agencies in California do have a fixed residential rate for residential sewer use.
And I appreciate that clarification. I misunderstood, so that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Good
thank
question.
you. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to thank you for the presentation and for our speaker that came on Zoom, and we'll have to come back to this topic in the future.
Thank you.
So thank you. Other staff reports, and so I think there's a change in our agenda.
We just had one recommended change to the agenda, but I think we were talking about the Rogers Garage procurement for
Yes.
the EIR. But I think you could just, at this point, we didn't make it at the beginning, so you could probably just pull that item from the consent calendar when we get there.
And would you like it under old or new business?
I think that would be old business. Yeah. So I don't think it matters, but I think, because it's been discussed as part of another item, old business would be.
Okay, thank you very
yeah.
much. So with that, we'll go on to oral communications and written communications. The city council values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. This early section of public comment is limited to 15 minutes in total. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. If you prefer to have a full 3 minutes of your time for public comment, then that's available at the end of the meeting under item 12, where speakers are granted 3 minutes. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on an item not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements, and there will also be time to provide public comments specific to each item on the agenda when we get to consent calendar. So please come forward to speak it. And we'll take number 1, number 2, number 3. Would you mind lining up, please? I would appreciate it. You can come forward. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Cynthia Potan. I live in Arcata. And I don't think that the Arcata Sister City Project will support terrorism.
We're going to have to get your speaker moved up a little bit, so
Oh.
maybe Juan can elevate it so we could actually hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Is this it?
Louder.
I'll have to speak louder. Oh, okay. All right, is this better?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'm Cynthia Potan. I live in Arcata. The Arcata Sister City Project will not support terrorism. There's no question that the October 7th Hamas attack was terrorism. But Hamas is a political party. The men who attacked on October 7th are a militant wing of that party. Just as MAGA Republicans do not represent all Republicans, Hamas militants do not represent all the Gazans who voted Hamas into the government. The Gazan people have paid dearly for that attack. 67,962 people have been killed to date. That includes 20,179 children, 12,500 women, 255 journalists, and 1,701 medical staff. The survivors are enduring famine, illnesses, and injuries, lack of medical care, no safe place to even pitch a tent, and very little access to water. Our tax dollars have funded this nightmare. And why is it so important for Arcata to become a sister city? Because it acknowledges that we, the people, tax dollars funded this genocide, want to do whatever we can what's in our power to redress the grave crimes that our government has committed in our name. The Sister City project is already offering water, supplying water, and a project to help children.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I urge
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Thank you. My name is Sean from the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition, here to ask you to put the draft resolution that we presented for Sister City with Gaza City on the agenda and vote in favor of it. It has over 2,000 signatures behind it already. It's been one of the most commented on items, overwhelmingly in favor. We just transferred today $3,500 to Gaza City. That's the completion of almost $9,000 that we have provided for water distribution in Gaza City. So our contacts in Gaza City are preparing to distribute that water as we speak. Just wanted to really underline just how positive this initiative is. And certainly, it's a momentous time right now. There's currently a ceasefire. We hope the ceasefire lasts, but regardless of how long that ceasefire lasts, this Sister City project is a long-term commitment. And we certainly hope that you guys will join us soon, especially with all of the overwhelming public support that has already been shown. And in the last 2 years since October 2023, we've seen our nation divided over this issue of whether or not to support genocide of the Palestinians. And unfortunately, we've got this bipartisan consensus among our rulers. There's been a concerted effort by big money to target decision makers and keep them supporting the genocide. And you guys are not immune from that. You are no exception. You also have been targeted in that way. But this is not what the voters want. And so please vote in favor of the resolution.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker, please.
Hello, my name's Heidi Curtis. I'm currently experiencing homelessness. I have been registered for housing for the past 3 years through multiple agencies locally. I was first diagnosed with a disability in 1994 when I was 10 years old. I didn't understand what that meant at all, and it's a lifelong disability. So I was left generational skipping benefits for my grandfather. I was left my own disability benefits. My disability benefits, or my survivor's benefits for my mother, which all of this is still entitled to me, and is going to someone because I'm still a child. I can't make any medical decision on my own. I can't make any financial decision on my own. And now, I came to this county and I was hoping maybe it would change, because this has happened in more than one place and state, and I know I'm not crazy. I have the paperwork to prove what I know is going on, and it's just a big hokey pokey of who has what ownership is what it is. And that's why I continue on being ignored and going homeless, because there's over at the Grove, I know, which is the very low income housing, there are multiple, probably 14 open units right now. So I don't understand, and that's just one place that I see visually with my own eyes, because, I have to sneak around to, maybe crash out there because it's myself, and my dog. But it's like, I think that housing agencies you guys have been very ineffective. And I need help looking into this because if they take me off by myself, caseworkers, government agencies have continued to fail and keep on like just playing hot potato or hide the, under the cup while someone else gets to steal my money. And I mean, I'm out on the streets with nothing. I'm living off of $128 a month right now when I know that I'm getting benefits also that I'm not receiving.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry about that too. Our next speaker, please.
No mention of the few remaining live hostages who have finally been freed and are beginning to tell their stories. But are you too blinded by your hatred of Israel to listen? Netanyahu didn't line up his political opponents and execute them in the public square this week. That was Hamas. Israel didn't systematically rape, starve, and torture their prisoners, deny them access to medical care, murder them in captivity, or hold them in cages, up to their feet in their own feces. That was Hamas in the cold and damp and dark. And Zionism didn't use civilians as human shields and political bargaining chips to revive anti-Semitism across the West. That was Hamas. In recent days, Hamas has declared victory and seized back control of Gaza City. Sister Cities International won't allow you to establish an illegal relationship with a city that, as the neo-Nazis who keep asking you for one are constantly admitting, is war-torn, run by a UN-recognized and designated terrorist organization, and for the purposes of anti-government, socialist, revolutionary goals that have nothing to do with liberating the people of Gaza. These violent radicals who are in the same camp as Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, who use the comment period to call for your deaths when they think they might not get their way, are asking you to commit crimes now. And that isn't protected speech, okay? Public comment is at the mayor's discretion, and it might even be illegal for you to allow criminal agents with foreign ties, $3,500 just today, acting under the Chinese Communist flag at times to participate. So there's no legal or moral justification for my city council to be a venue for violent, illegal hate speech. Please just put a stop to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a homeowner in Arcata. I'm here in strong favor of establishing a sister city with Gaza, as well as establishing an ethical city procurement policy. Thank you to the council for the steps you have already taken. I would love to see our city continue to take material action towards building a just world, the world we want to live in, where humans are valued as humans, regardless of the histories and contexts that they are born into, where people are able to not only exist or survive, but thrive. Now is the time to take a stand for what is right, for basic human rights, such as clean water, clean air, nutrition, and dignified shelter. This is applicable not only in Gaza, but also here, as people have commented on meeting and meeting again. History has its eyes on you, on us, on all of us. Let us not stand by. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Please come forward if there's anyone else, because then we're going to go to Zoom. Thank you.
I'm Rayner from Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition, and I hope that you take us up on that resolution to become a sister city with Gaza City. The Trump White House wants us to view this ceasefire as proof that it cares about the Palestinians or that it wants peace. That the Trump White House wants us to start looking away from the Palestine issue. But the reality is, Gaza continues to be occupied in large parts by Israel. Israel continues to impose a siege on the Palestinians that it's using to starve them. And Israel has been violating the ceasefire. It's the responsibility of local governments such as this one to push back against any attempts at whitewashing what is going on and to continue strengthening our relationships with the Palestinian people.
Thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we have 3 hands raised. I have us at about close to 10 minutes into public comment
Okay.
right now. So how many?
Well, let's see. Yep, let's see how long they are, and maybe we can get all 3 of them in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Lev, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lev. I'm addressing the council once again in support of the Sister City initiative. I'll be quick. This initiative continues to be vitally important at a time when the Trump administration has shown itself indifferent, if not supportive, of Israel's desire to destroy or subjugate the Palestinian people and annex not only Gaza, but also the West Bank. Without intensified international pressure, the ceasefire could well become nothing more than a diplomatic screen that disguises continuing Israeli aggression, as we've seen. Arcata needs to be part of that international pressure. I hope the council votes on the Sister City initiative as a testament to the compassion and ethical commitments of the people of Arcata. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker.
Just one moment here. Rebecca, please go ahead.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
My name is Rebecca Gomez. I'm a resident of Arcata. And I came to speak in support of making Arcata a sister city to Gaza. I don't know what it would take to get this all done, or if it's like a money issue or just a vote you guys have to do, but I really stand in support of it. Yesterday, Israel reported to cut off half of the aid to Gaza, and they're accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire, being too slow with the release of hostages. So we've seen them repeatedly starve people. Twice the flotillas were intercepted. So I think maybe helping Gaza and becoming a sister city, I would hope that we would be able to send aid to them, like some food, some baby formula. They're starving over there. So I'd hope maybe we'd be able to fundraise and get some supplies to them, because if we don't hurry up and do this, a sense of urgency, there are babies starving there. So I hope that everybody there on the council would consider please signing Arcata to be sister city with Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our last speaker.
Shannon, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm going to just quote my child's favorite star here, Miss Rachel. She has a program called Songs for Littles. It's an excellent program for young children. What is going to be done now for the children of Gaza? They deserve reparations. According to the UN genocide report, 18,430 children were killed in Gaza. Gaza is home to the largest cohort of children amputees in modern history. Some were performed without anesthesia. They have been out of school for 2 years. They have been killed, maimed, starved, orphaned, displaced, traumatized, and denied healthcare and education. They need their schools, hospitals, and homes rebuilt now. They need access to clean water, food, and medicine now. They need the best psychological care and trauma recovery now. They need the world to apologize for violating their human rights and letting a genocide be committed against them. They need the world to do everything possible to help them heal and rebuild. Some children, including toddlers, were shot in the head by snipers. That is from the UN genocide report. There is a clear pattern of conduct since October 7th, 2023, showing that the Israeli security forces directly targeted children in different circumstances with the intention to kill them. UN genocide report. Israel's use of starvation as a method of war throughout the siege on Gaza Strip has had devastating impacts on children as well, resulting in starvation, alarmingly high rates of acute malnutrition, increasingly risks of outbreak of disease such as cholera and chronic diarrhea, and significant excess mortality. Do anything and everything in your power to stand against this and do a sister city with Gaza City. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our 15-minute public comment at this time. I do want to mention one thing is that right now the city of Arcata has an intern who is working on guidelines for a sister city. And so I'm not too sure how long that'll take, but we'll have to use maybe you would like to speak to it, City Manager?
Yeah, I was going to bring it up in my staff report, but I didn't have a chance to do that. But yeah, I just actually met with him today. It's a Cal Poly political science student, and they wanted to take on a project of developing sister city guidelines and really looking at what the city has in place with Camawapa, as well as looking what other similar sized cities are doing, and bring back to the city a draft recommendation, a draft policy for the city to consider. So we expect to have a presentation from him in November.
Thank you. I thought it was appropriate time to just to mention that at this moment. So with that, we're going to go on to our consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There's no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members can request an item be removed for separate discussion. Members of the public may comment on any item remaining on the consent calendar in the comment period before the vote. And so we are removing item number G, and that'll be heard under old business. So is there any item on the agenda that we would like to remove?
So Mayor Stillman, I'd just like to clarify, the agenda needs a vote from council to modify, and so there wasn't a vote. So what I would recommend is just proceed with this consent calendar and then pull that like you normally would.
Okay. Is there any items on the agenda, on the consent calendar that council members would like to pull?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item G, please.
Is there anyone else? Item G. Okay, so we're going to pull item G and we'll end up putting that under old business. No, we can't. Okay,
Like, should we do an agenda modification? We have to do
I
that from the
don't.
beginning.
I think now would be the time to take that up as part of the pulled item from the consent calendar.
okay. So besides item G, can we have a motion on the floor to approve the rest of the council consent calendar? And if anyone in the public wishes to speak on it, they may come forward and speak on. But we have an emotion. I would like a motion before we do that.
I will move to adopt the consent calendar items A through F.
I second.
Okay, so is there anyone that would like to speak on the consent calendar before we vote on it? Would you please, could you please come up and speak? So you can speak on the consent calendar, any item except for G.
Okay, I'm speaking on F, and basically this one caught my attention because I think it's Fair Ridge events, and you know, it seemed like it was something that I was a little concerned about why you're like getting involved with this one, because this is going to the Board of Supervisors. So I mean, I looked it up, and also you know, it seemed like we had some heavy hitters on this one. We had the police chief, the city manager, and I looked it up, and it's Scott Davies. It's our planning commissioner. So seems like you're not being quite so open on this. Like, what is this all about? I looked it up online. It seems like it's about money. He wants to increase the amount of events he has, which is, you know, basically bands and music. And what I read from the planning commission is that he has some neighbors that were very supportive in the beginning of this, but, you know, felt that he was violating the noise element of the plan. So I'd have to say that, you know, this is something that I've brought up quite a bit to the planning commission and you guys. And so he should be pretty well acquainted with the noise element. And I guess I'd have to say that, you know, I don't think I had a lot of empathy on this area. I was coming at it from the standpoint of how the police are not enforcing the muffler issue throughout the city with all these cars that are adjusting it. And he was violating it from the standpoint of music. So it's a little concerning from the fact that I had a meeting with our city manager very early in his tenure here. And I also had a meeting with when Bart was, you know, just sworn in to police chief. And so I think your letter is pretty misleading from the standpoint that this somehow is not going to increase traffic. It's not going to, I mean, did Bart go out there with the a sound meter and check out what the volume was, because he has not really demonstrated any interest in this. Meredith, even when she was mayor, put him on the spot and asked him, what's going on with the sound? And he was like, I don't know, what is the law? You know, it's like he is supposed to know what the state law is, and he's supposed to enforce it, not like give me an answer just recently when I brought this up and to say, oh, that's Ortega's problem now, not my problem. And so I'm really disappointed like that our city manager has not taken a more interested in this. And I mean, he did tell me that Bart was taking care of it, but there was no follow through on this. And so basically nothing has happened with this issue. And now, you know, it seems like you guys are asking for something special here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the consent calendar? Please come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. I just wanted to speak to the previous commenter. In point of fact, it's certainly not about money in this instance. If anyone is concerned about noise or traffic impacts, the reason that we're proposing this and the reason that the Planning Commission approved this unanimously is because allowing us to do an event that would last for the weekend would reduce by 2/3 the amount of guests, traffic, and impact that we would have on our neighborhood. Additionally, Chief Silvers did come up, review our decibel logs. We've been operating well below the thresholds that the county set for us. He saw that, the county saw that. If there's any questions, if it's appropriate, I'll answer them. That's all I had for you this evening. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak on the consent calendar this evening? Okay, being none, may we move for approval? I'm sorry? Yeah, we have a motion on the floor. All those in say,
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Let's move on to item G, please, and we'll have prefer a staff report on this item.
Yeah, I'm happy to give a staff report on the item. I guess just a quick query of the council members if there are any particular issues, and I think I'll wait until Councilmember Atkins Salazar has left the room. She's recusing herself.
Yes, she is. I didn't ask if anyone needed to recuse himself, but she is.
If there's anything in particular the council wants me to focus on, I'd be happy to target my staff report to those interests. This was on consent as a routine matter to issue a contract for environmental services. In super brief, before I get direction as to what you want me to focus on, the city's land use code, the zoning ordinance requires that we directly contract for EIR services when we have an applicant who's triggered an EIR. So that's essentially what this is about, is trying to award that contract so we can get underway to do the environmental review for Rogers Garage.
So is it my understanding that what we do is we find the contractor to do the work, but we do not pay the contractor? Is that correct?
Yeah, so the contract, we will be paying the contractor, but passing those costs on to the developer. As the council is aware, we're also considering a funding for this project. In part, the reason we're doing the CIR is because during the funding environmental analysis, it was identified that we needed to do more than just a categorical exemption. And so now we're doing a full EIR before the council can make its decision on funding. If that funding goes through, or if it's related, it meets certain criteria, then the community development block grant funds can pay for that environmental work. If those things do not go through, we'll be sending invoices to the developer.
So before I open it for public comment, would you, either one of you like to make any comments at this time, or should we wait till public comment? Okay, I'll ask for public comment. Anyone that would like to speak on the item G, which has been removed from the council consent calendar?
Hi, good evening. My name's Joanne McGarry, and I've been at many of these meetings where the Rogers Garage issue had practically a full room coming to speak on their concern about this property, which I understand is owned by the Danco Corporation. So it was determined that because of the toxicity of that Rogers Garage site, it required an EIR, whereas in the past they thought it wasn't going to need it. So I'm just trying to reiterate what I kind of understand, to see this on a consent calendar, that the city of Arcata is going to front a $115,000 for CEQA NEPA services for that site, which Danco owns, and they will be reimbursing the city. And Danco's current plans for that site are to build 44 housing units right across from the Jacoby Creek School, and that some of the neighbors had been here just really concerned about the use of that site, the toxicity of that site. And I know that this is supposedly money being spent for an EIR, but I just want to remind everybody that the neighbors were here speaking up in concern about that site. So if you're going to do an EIR, great, but there's more to come on this whole issue. I just want to say that out loud.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, please. Thank you.
Hey guys, good evening. I appreciate you guys' efforts looking into this and your workload as well. I would like to respectfully say to Dave, this is not a routine matter. Well, not to Dave, but to you guys, it's not a routine matter, and I'm glad that we're pulling it for further comment here, because a lot of times in this project we've taken the staff narrative at face value here. That the site has been ready to meet our housing goals. That it just needs a little environmental tweak to get it done. But a lot of the issues now have come up that would have been easy to spot with a little bit more looking at them, a little bit more study. They're now starting to come out, and let me point those out. As Dave said, we have a cortisone list that's caused this EIR, I believe, and we also have residential vapor risks that are now identified here. I don't know if people know about that, but there's now come out. There's a wetlands. There's a legacy wetlands on site that's complicating the site design. And then just last month, I don't know if you guys know this, but the State Water Board has alerted the city to a 60-year-old primary drainage pipe right from Rogers Garage that runs under the school. So I don't know, anyway, but there's a lot of surprises here for what's already been $180,000 spent on the pre-development money here. So, and Helix Consultants, they appear to be a good choice, but this RFP that we're talking about, as written, it's flawed in its attempt to narrow the scope. And let's see what else. It's skipping key issues, and one of the most glaring things that it skips, if you look at it, it skips the fact that it's supposed to include and study school impacts. A quarter mile from this project requires school impacts to be studied. So, I just would recommend you guys, if we could, look a little closer at this, it would be great. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker, please. Thank you for coming forward.
Good evening, Council. Kathleen Stanton, Building Bayside Better. The problem with approving the contract for the EIR consultant at this time is that it's like putting the cart before the horse. It's procedurally improper. Currently, there is no complete project application, which is the first step in the EIR process. Once that's done, an initial study begins, and then there's scoping so that all the potential issues are addressed. And then the determination of the extent of the EIR, whether it will be a focused or a comprehensive one, is done. And that's when a consultant is contracted, not before. Since there's been no initial study, the issues have not been defined accurately. The RFQP currently omits water quality and geotechnical considerations. Predetermining a focused EIR without an initial study unlawfully narrows analysis before the public and agencies can define issues. The RFQP encourages streamlining review, but this is a Cortez listed contaminated site adjacent to a school with a newly discovered wetland and an underground pipe that extends from the site and goes across the street and under the school and daylights at the back of the Jacoby Creek School property. These issues have not been addressed in sufficient detail or previously analyzed to allow tiering from the General Plan 2045 EIR. The General Plan EIR did not address redevelopment of a contaminated Cortez-listed property adjacent to a storm drain outfall under a school. Because these conditions are unique to the Rogers Garage site, they must be examined in full, not a focused project-specific EIR. Because the Rogers Garage application remains incomplete, the city cannot yet provide the stable description necessary to support any EIR, much less a narrow, focused one. We need a comprehensive, not a focused EIR that omits key subjects such as water quality, hydrology, and the cumulative effects of contamination and development near Jacoby Creek School. Approving a consultant contract without correcting these defects puts the city at risk and invites a legal challenge. The factual baseline describing the existing physical conditions of the site and surrounding area is not only incomplete at this time, but is actively evolving under the supervision of the Regional Water Quality Control Board, which continues to require new testing and remediation at the site. Please get a complete project application done, then prepare an initial study and scoping, and amend the RFQP to eliminate a focused EIR before you hire a consultant.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your comments. Next speaker, please.
There are packets to give out, you know, just to
Are these
mentioned before.
are these regarding the Rogers Garage item?
Excuse me?
It's for the Rogers Garage, the packages you have here.
No, the packets are for each of the, it involves a situation involving my house.
Around Rogers Garage. That's what she's asking.
No, no.
Is this related to this?
Huh?
You have to wait for public comment.
Oh, I thought this was public comment.
It's public comment on Rogers
Oh, I
Garage
apologize
properties.
so much. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the Rogers Garage that's here tonight? And do we have anyone on Zoom?
Yes, I have one hand on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, please go ahead.
Hello, Arcata City Council members. Lisa Brown from Arcata Bayside. Like others speaking tonight, I believe a focused EIR is likely not the correct environmental document, but we do not know, given the absence of an initial study or even a proposal for the Rogers Garage site. The community has not been engaged with the development of a proposed project, as was promised at the last hearing held for the funding request. A community meeting was never held to hear our concerns and input. Bayside is understandably gun shy with this developer and this site. First go around was a proposal for 2 preschools, in addition to commercial development rivaling the size of the Sunnybury Shopping Center, as well as a housing component and 88 parking spaces, all stuffed onto this small 1.8 acre site across from the already congested area of Jacoby Creek School. All of this was proposed under a negative declaration on a property that housed a well-known historic car crushing facility property. Yes, there is distrust. Additionally, as you know, the lead-painted Quonset hut was sandblasted without any mitigation or containment. All of this across the street from Jacoby Creek School. Additionally, the incomplete care and monitoring of the toxins over the years known to exist on site that are likely migrating off site and into the water table. And a more recent memory, the ongoing but recently admonished abuse of coastal prime agricultural land by the developer with the placement of gravel and pavement to store large equipment and trucks on site. Not to mention a couple of large unpermitted events that turned pastures into parking lots. Yes, we are gun shy. Yes, we need a full disclosure environmental process with an EIR that studies all of the concerns surrounding the development of this site, including but not limited to traffic and safety studies, biologic studies, parking studies, air quality studies, geologic studies, community character, aesthetics, and historical building assessments, drainage issues, noise and lighting assessments, as well as state mandated impacts to the school. I really do appreciate the ability to speak on this tonight. However, all of this makes me wonder if it may be time for Bayside to have representation on the city council, as it has been far too many years since we have had this. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on Zoom?
No.
Okay. With that, I'll bring it back to the city council. I'll bring it back to those that wish to remove this item from the agenda. You?
I didn't ask to remove it, but I do have a question that I will ask David. Will you just speak to the difference and the rationale behind choosing a focused DIR over a full blown? Besides, probably it would be more expensive, but
yeah, absolutely. And you know, when as a CEQA practitioner, you have to make decisions at and decide which CEQA pathway you're taking. But CEQA is it's a public disclosure process. Things change along the way. In particular with an EIR, you start out with a draft EIR. After public comment, you do a final EIR, and that's all responsive to the information that comes out during the CEQA process. It's not unheard of to have a CEQA process start in one direction, and then as things emerge through that public disclosure process, you end up in another direction. In fact, it happened on this project. We started out with a Cat X. We originally thought that it fit within the context of a Cat X. And when we realized it was on the Cortese list and that was no longer an option, we changed directions, pivoted, and started working on an EIR. Again, we make decisions about the level of detail that we think is necessary for that public disclosure. And we move forward with those. I asked in the RFP for a focused EIR because I believe that's where we're going to land, is in a focused EIR. As the initial study is developed for this project, as we go through scoping with the public and the agencies, that decision may change. But I wanted to get a sense for, if we do a focused EIR, what is it going to cost for that? And who is prepared to address the issues that are identified? Helix came out among the 4 very good proposals that we received. Helix came out as the top. And so we'd like to issue the contract and start working with them as soon as possible so that we can start to resolve these issues. What I heard in public comment from a couple of different people in a couple of different ways is that they want to get into the details. If we don't start this process, we will never get into the details. And so we issued an RFP for a focused EIR. We think that's the direction we're going right now. As we go through scoping, if it turns it into more of a comprehensive EIR or still a focused EIR, but we need additional, subject matter areas, we'll add those in as we go. So we have to be responsive to the process.
So just to clarify what you're saying, the focused EIR could definitely turn up things that we would additionally have to study, right? I mean, so what specifically is this focused EIR going to address?
Yeah, right now and again, what we're anticipating in the RFP, what we've asked for in the RFP, and what's been responded to by the consultants, primarily focus around the contamination, the hazards on the site, hazardous material, the wetland on the site, and then we're probably taking a look at GHG, greenhouse gas, for the project, both from the construction phase and the operational phase. Those are really the biggest issues. And the concept of tiering off of another EIR is, maybe misunderstood, but basically this is very common. In fact, when we do environmental analysis for any project that triggers a mitigated negative declaration or higher, we're always making reference to the EIR for the general plan or the general plan policies, because those are what were analyzed. And this has been ratified by the state over and over again. We're seeing housing laws come out on a regular basis where they're essentially limiting the amount of environmental review that can be done for housing projects because they're trying to streamline housing production. And so with our general plan EIR, we evaluated the sites, and we said specifically in that EIR for the general plan, if there are site-specific conditions that are different from what the assumptions are in this EIR, that site will have to do its own environmental work on those site-specific conditions. And so broadly speaking, for example, the traffic analysis, right now the state has us look at vehicle miles traveled. I think what most people think about when they think about traffic is congestion and how long it's going to take them to make a left-hand turn. That's not even subject matter for CEQA anymore. The EIR did a sufficient job of analyzing VMT for this site and all sites in Arcata that meet the code requirements. And so this is a project that is meeting the density, it's meeting the code requirements. So that's why we're cheering, because we've already done all of that analysis, and it wasn't done 20 years ago, it was done last year. So it's very relevant and recent.
Yeah, I really appreciate that clarification. I serve on the Cal City's Housing, Economic Development and Community Development Committee, and I have seen all of these state laws come past and how things are being streamlined. I mean, we just got a presentation on our RENA numbers. I mean, so I see, that I just, I think these people can make a point of order. There's a lot of whispering going on in the audience, and I understand, but we're really trying to focus on this. So if you have conversations you need to have, if you could step outside, that'd be great. Thank you. I know that these people are very concerned about soil, and there's things that they have a right to be concerned to. I just want to make sure that they're going to be addressed, and they'll be addressed publicly, and there's going to be transparency in the process. But
absolutely. And one of the speakers mentioned the water board. The water board is overseeing all of the environmental contamination as well as the wetland issues. And so we're not doing this in a vacuum. This is a complete public process with other resource agencies that are trustees to the resources or advisory to the city. So we'll be obviously taking those in serious consideration as well.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly.
I guess I'm concerned. What I'm hearing from the community is that they feel that there was no follow-up on a community or town hall meeting. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Vice Mayor White. Excuse me. We are still planning the meeting. It kind of morphed from sort of like a pretty straightforward town hall that we could pull off in a relative short period of time into something that requires, we feel like, a lot more context and information. We're currently working to put together with Danco to put together a small film on the project, just so that everyone can have the same information and be able to refer back to that same information. We want that film to come out and for people to be able to view it for at least 2 weeks before we have the meeting. Right now, we're targeting this winter for that meeting, but some of it depends on the production schedule for the film. And we'll use that meeting for really 2 reasons. One is to establish the public scoping for CEQA, so we'll use it for that purpose. And then we'll also use it for the original purpose that we discussed previously in our last meeting, where we'll really be seeking input from the community and trying to take that input and think about, are there ways that we can modify the project to try and address some of these concerns?
So my other question is, you said that this meeting would help the public with regards to scoping for CEQA. And we talked about, or we've heard from the community, they would like to have a comprehensive versus focus. And I know that Meredith had spoke to that as well. The community does not determine whether it's a focus or comprehensive. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The community does not determine that. The decision-making body does. And so if the council wants to go with a comprehensive EIR, you can, direct that. My recommendation would be to certainly not make that decision tonight and to wait and see what the issues are that evolve or develop out of the, the scoping process. This is a project that if it didn't have one of two environmental concerns, either not the wetland or not the contamination, would have met the qualifications for a new exemption, categorical exemption. And so, I don't in any way diminish the concerns that the community is raising, but I want the council to be really aware that this project is about as squarely in the pocket of what the state is driving us to do as it possibly can be. It meets all of the policies that you just adopted in your general plan 2045, and is really an example type project for the types of infill development that we've been talking about doing. I understand it's and I don't want to get too much into the project detail. I understand it's a dramatic change for the neighborhood, but the site has been zoned for commercial mixed use for over 20 years. This is a site that had it been actually in this general plan update cycle, it would have been impossible to change the zoning because the state put in its Housing Accountability Act that you can't downzone properties. But that would have been the time to do it, really, is if we felt like these commercial mixed sites aren't appropriate for for neighborhood centers. We shouldn't have at that time removed those, and we have a number of them. So I guess as sort of a policy discussion, if this is the kind of project that the council doesn't want to see, we have a number of other sites where this exact same project could go in elsewhere throughout the city.
I guess my question is, we're being asked today to award a contract to Helix. If for whatever reason it does change from a focus to a comprehensive, will that change the contract amount?
Almost undoubtedly, yeah.
So I guess I'm feeling like maybe we need to have that meeting with the community before we determine whether we need a focus versus comprehensive and award the contract. And I'm probably the only one who's...
Well, my understanding is that if this focused study unearths things, that then it would go to a more comprehensive.
Yeah, and that could happen really anytime through the environmental review process. So it may be that somebody brings something up in the scoping meeting that triggers adding additional subject matter areas to the focused EIR. I have some experience in this field, and based on my experience, I think we're going to be okay with a focused EIR, which is why we put it out for RFP that way. I understand that there are some community members who want us to start and evaluate all subject matter areas all over again. And that would not be my recommendation. And so, again, it's up to the council to make that call ultimately.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, if that's okay, to award a contract in the amount of $115,000. Are these reading glasses? $115,190 to Helix Environmental Planning Incorporated for CEQA NEPA services for the Rogers Garage Affordable Housing Project. Authorize a 10% increase for contingencies and approve necessary and associated related actions. Thank you.
Is there a
And
second?
authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. Okay, I will second if we add that part.
Yes, to authorize the city manager to sign all applicable documents. Okay, with that motion, I'll call for everyone in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
So it's 4-0. Is that correct? Did you vote aye? Okay, thank you. And with that, we could ask our council member who
Can I just
out.
ask a quick point of order question? I mean, I feel like our new business item is going to take less time than our old business item, and we have some folks patiently waiting to present. Is there a possibility we could maybe move the new business item up and maybe take a quick 5-minute break before that as well?
Can I also, can we, never mind. But if you're going to make a motion to move new order.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to move our new business item ahead of our old business item to
Yeah, I'll
number
second
10.
that for sure.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So we're going to move.
Can we take a 5-minute break though? Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So we're getting ready to start our meeting again, and thank you for coming. We're waiting for our city council member to return to the dais.
All right. Before we start with this new business item, I just want to say that I've seen this proposal before, and I just want to say that even though the Humboldt Lodging Alliance is not involved with this yet and support, maybe they will be one day. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and recuse myself from this. So thank you.
Okay, so you'll be able to watch us on TV in the back room also. We'll wait till you're gone. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to consider the approving a memorandum of understanding for fall 2025 to spring 2027 Choose Humboldt campaign and consider approving $5,000 contribution to financially support the campaign. So may we have a presentation, please?
And I'm just Mayor, City Council, members of the public, and staff. I'm just going to introduce the item, and I'm going to turn it over to Rosa Dixon and Charlene Cook, who are with Made Humboldt. And they've got a nice presentation set up, and I know they've got some materials if you're interested. They were included in your packet, though. But I'll let them take over.
Great. Okay. Oop, well, let me not do that. Okay. Hi, I'm Rosa Dixon. I'm the executive director for Humboldt. Oops. Okay, closer. Executive director for Humboldt Made.
I'm Charlene Cook. I'm the marketing director for Humboldt Made and the project lead for Choose Humboldt.
So, Choose Humboldt is a program that we inherited. It was something that started during COVID in 2020, and it really was a true collaboration of our county working together to support our local businesses. And it was an all hands on deck situation. It was the chambers, the cities, the different community leaders and partners working together to help keep our businesses going through COVID and launching the Shop Local campaign. Do you need me to talk into it? Okay, I'll talk. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll really mouth the microphone. So, when we started this year, we received a call to action from our local business community saying we really need help. We don't know what's happening with tariffs and with pricing going up and economy, and we need support. And what can we do? So we were asked to reunite the Choose Humboldt campaign, as Humboldt Made was the one that ran it in COVID. So this has been a project that we have been working on with an advisory committee made up of city city roles, community supporters, chambers, and different business owners to try and come up with the most impactful countywide Choose Humboldt, Shop Local campaign. So over the last 6 months, we have built this, and we've really taken all the different aspects of all of our partners into account. And the biggest thing is, how do we celebrate the unique businesses and the passion that we all have here in Humboldt? Because when we choose local, we're supporting each other, we're supporting our community. So we want to do a couple different things. And I'm going to hand it over to Charlene, who is going to be the one who's running this program.
So we're going to be doing a lot of different things in this campaign, including storytelling through videography and social media, our Friday night market activation like the one in Arcata, which was a smashing success. We're doing retail and in-store integration programs. If you've been to ENF, you may have seen the big posters of our makers. We're going to be expanding that program into other local stores in 2026. And we're also doing a passport program. This is an app that we'll use for the duration of 1 year, 3 different campaigns. Our target audience is first and foremost our community. This is curated specifically for them, but this is a campaign that's really easy for visitors and tourists to get involved in and use to explore our county. We have lots of collaborators that we're working with, like Rosa said. We're trying to get the burden off of our businesses. And so we're reaching out to cities and grant funding to fund this whole campaign so that our businesses don't have to do anything to participate. So yeah, this is how we're funding, like I said. Our campaign, this is the first year. We've been working on rebranding, brand glow up. In November, mid-November, we'll launch the passport program and really begin that holiday shopping push through December. January will be a restaurant month and begin our stay and dine campaign. Through the spring, we'll begin promoting events, Friday night market, and we're also going to be doing an influencer program. And then we'll recap in 2026, September, and hopefully begin the Shop Humboldt again for the holiday season 2026. So our phase 1 focus is a refreshed branding with local designer Jen McFerrin. She designed the first logo, which is up there on the right. We're gonna just keep using that as a badge and bring in the same elements, but expand it. And then this will be a collaborative rollout with all of our partners, the chambers, hopefully all the cities, everybody we've been working with to really get that message out. And our passport will launch the first campaign, Shop Humboldt. This is the brand refresh. We worked with our advisory committee to nail down Jen's design to this one with the fern in the H, something a little simple with an expanded color palette. We're using some different sector taglines, and we'll be expanding the branding throughout this 18-month campaign.
And highlight the shop one, because I love this.
Our first campaign, our tagline is Buy Humboldt, Grow Community, or Buy Local, Build Community. And we're really excited about that. That's going to be the first one. And then that will really carry through the whole campaign, and we'll bring that back again and again. So the passport overview, first of all, this doesn't cost anything for our businesses to participate in. As I said, this will be funded through the campaign, the subscription for the passport, and it is a gamified digital passport that will go for throughout the year. There will be 3 different campaigns, and it will really support local businesses from all different sectors. And we will be able to capture our impact through data and analytics on the app. Vibe Map is the first end-to-end platform that promotes local places and events. They've worked with cities like Oakland, Portland. There's currently passports going in Washington, D.C., San Antonio, Texas. It's very customizable and extremely user-friendly, which I thought was very important to be able to get a lot of the community involved. So the overview of the passport, the way that it works is it's, as I said, very customizable. I'm working with the Vibe Map team. And the passports, the first campaign or challenge is going to be a Shop Humboldt challenge. That'll be the name of it. The way that it works is that participants download the app that tracks their location or uses their location to show businesses around them in the passport. And they earn points by engaging with businesses that are participating. So there's an interactive map you can see on that third little phone photo, and participants will go check in at businesses. They do have to physically be there. They can't just be at home checking in. They do have to be at the business. They can leave reviews, vibes, and share the businesses to earn points. Those points add up to badges. And so each badge will be associated with prizes. The smaller badges, the easier to attain badges, will have something like, Choose Humboldt swag that they get, while the ones that are more intensive, more engaging to achieve will be raffles for larger prizes. These prizes will all be combination purchased through the campaign funding and also donated from some of the bigger local businesses that want to sponsor this. And so again, no burden on the businesses. They don't have to offer anything to participate.
And the prizes will be things like, gift cards from local stores that we will purchase through the
funding.
through
Yep.
the funding.
And then like a big grand, like the big badge will have a big package, like a staycation, gift cards to a local restaurant, maybe a little shopping spree, something that really incentivizes people to participate in this. And then businesses, if they want to, they can add discounts and promos, which will also get participants points for redeeming those discounts and promos. And then on the last side, you can see a little bit, it's, as I said, gamifies, which means it's a game. And this shows them how many points they've had, how many badges they've earned. And on our side, we can see how many collective points there are, how many check-ins there have been, what businesses are getting the most check-ins. So then I can, come in from the backside and market some of the businesses that might not have been getting as many check-ins. And then all of our partners will be listed on the app as well. So we think that we'll have more than that. I think we're probably 300 to 500 businesses will participate in this. Residents will participate. We have 275 businesses in this first Shop Humboldt passport, which we divided up. The county let us know how many residents were in each area between the cities and unincorporated areas, and then we divided that, based on percentages, what businesses. All of the chambers helped us come up with the lists of businesses they thought would be good for this, so that it wasn't us selecting it or just their AI program through Vibe Map. This is very curated, and all of our partners have been helping us with this. We expect a really big participation rate in this. When I was talking to the Vibe Map team, they told me that it really depends on marketing. And when I explained to them this Choose Humboldt and how involved our community is and how many people are going to be helping us with this launch, they thought that we will have a really good success rate with this. So we're asking for $5,000 to help fund this launch for the marketing, digital passport setup, and we think that this will be really great for businesses in Arcata as well as throughout the county.
And this is the funding model that we are also bringing to Eureka. So Eureka will be asked the same thing as well. And Eureka City Council will be asked the same as well to do 5,000, and so was Headwaters. So we were approved for Headwaters yesterday, and we're on the City Council for Eureka on the 4th. And that's pretty much already, they will already be decided. It was done a little differently than this. So that one wasn't a cold pitch like you guys are our cold pitch.
Thank you, Council. We do have questions.
Yeah, I do. You had mentioned that you did not choose the businesses, but rather the chambers did.
Yes.
I was wondering, it's free to businesses, which I think is wonderful. Could you tell me, how does a business become a featured participating business? For example, you've talked about the passport program, saying any business can participate. And I guess my question is, how are they chosen?
Yep. So we really focused this this slide deck for you for the first phase. There are 2 other phases that come after this, which we didn't go into, correct? I don't think so. Okay, we've done this so many times in the last 48 hours. So the shop local is directed towards retail stores and service providers such as massage therapists, Pilates studios that sell gift cards, right? So this is really a shop local for the holiday. And so businesses that fall into that are what we were really looking for. So we gave guidelines to the chambers and we gave them a number. So based on the percentage of the number of residents in each of the areas, we gave a percentage because we could only have a total of 300 businesses in each of these campaigns of how many businesses percentage-wise based on the residents. So with that, we worked with the chambers. And then in addition to that, Charlene did do a sweep because there are a few businesses that are maybe just starting out or newer that aren't a part of the chambers. And we wanted to make sure they were included as well. And so that's how we chose the first phase. The second phase is a dine and stay. So that will be January and February. And that's hotels, that's restaurants, that's cafes. That's more like, we're going to bring in the more tourism aspect of it for that phase. And then the last phase is the Experience Humboldt. And that will be this summer. So that's our big events, right? That's Friday Night Market. That's where, Oyster Fest. It's the zoo, I don't know what botanical gardens, right? So, so we've kind of divided it up in those 3 ways.
So it sounds like in order to participate, you need to be a member of the chamber, excluding some of the new ones who haven't had the opportunity.
They didn't need to be a member of the chamber. When I reached out to all the chamber leaders, I basically said, you don't just include your members. Think of this is your city, you know it best. Think of all the businesses you think would be great. And again, I did a sweep too. We can't obviously fit every shop in all of Humboldt into this, but we did our best to be inclusive of all the different areas, not just downtowns. And like Rosa said, some newer businesses. And we've also had some people reaching out to us that have heard about it, and just talking in some of the small business groups. So yeah, we tried to have a really good spread of people.
And like in Eureka, they have a few different business groups, not just the chamber. They have Henderson Center and they have Main Street. And so we actually worked with all 3 of them. So in Arcata, we worked with Arcata Chamber, and then we kind of looked around to make sure that the retail shops were all being represented. So it was a hybrid of the 2. But we really, for the sake of Charlene and I being really the only employees for Humboldt Made, we had to really rely heavily on our partners, which are our chambers, to do this.
I like the idea that you're doing the 3 different phases so that you can include all kinds of business. This is probably predictable, but I'm going to advocate that we have over 78 businesses in Valley West, and we really could use a boost. So I'm hoping that they've been hit up a little bit, or at least be in the next one, hopefully. And then my other question is, you had talked about, you mentioned Eureka and Headwaters. Can you tell me the total budget for the Choose Humboldt campaign, and then maybe other potential partners that you're hoping?
Yeah, so the total budget for the Choose Humboldt campaign for the 18 months is, well, it's a bigger budget. It's around $200,000, but that includes a project at the airport, which I'm going to the airport next week to talk about the vending machines. Just a little side note. Very excited. That's been a dream of mine. So that includes a bigger project. For the app itself, it's about 35,000 is the total budget for this phase of it.
That includes print materials. We're going to get merch. That includes admin. And about 35 to 40,000 is our phase 1 budget that we're funding for.
And so Humboldt Made is funding the admin costs on this. So that's our contribution, which is pretty significant. And so this is something, that I think is really important, is all the funding that we're seeking is going directly back into this program. It's not going to pay me and Charlene. It's going in to support the marketing efforts, to support our local businesses. And we're really, really clear that that is so important. And that's why we're not charging businesses to participate, because that would be the only other way to fund this, right? Is to say, well, it's, $1,000 to participate. But that defeats the purpose. The purpose is to help our business community, because when Eureka did their survey, their business survey this year, 1 in every 4 business was looking to close their doors in the next year, and we just cannot let that happen in our county. And so all the way from Garberville up to the top of Humboldt and east, we're including everyone, as many as we can, but we're representing all areas.
This is going to be awesome. I'm excited about it.
Well, we always have a spin-off. And so once you have, even though you only have those many business and you're missing others, it's a spin-off. And so you will get more altogether. And let me, please.
I don't have any questions. It sounds amazing. Thank you.
No, great presentation, and just thank you guys. It's really cool to see kind of how Humboldt Made has evolved to be able to take up these projects and really, push our community to, just buy stuff local, give back, all of that, and be part of our community. So, I guess we haven't taken public comment yet, but I was going to make a motion, and we'll have it on the table, to approve the MOU for fall 2025 to spring 2027 for Choose Humboldt, and to approve the $5,000 contribution to support the campaign.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there public comment on this, please? If so, step forward. Please come forward, and stand in line, and so you don't pop up at the last minute. Thank you.
Good evening. I have no problem supporting this, but I think that's there's a lot more to it if they're going to succeed. And I'll give a little example. It's about a year ago that I ran for city council, and I was going to store on the plaza, and there were a lot of issues with our businesses. And it's also about the same time that Merit started, and we had 3 council members that were incumbents that were running for office. And every single day when I went to the gym across the plaza, I kind of knew what was going on. So when this happened, there was a big change. We had 3 officers on the plaza every single day that I walked through there. And there were citations happening every time that I walked through there. And I must have witnessed probably 5 or 6 people being arrested. So a dramatic change. And that went on until we had that barbecue incident with the guy that was the tumble with the police. And then after that, the police sort of backed off what I saw from the standpoint. They maybe left 1 car on the plaza, and they'd check in every once in a while. So I would use another example. I never really personally thought the daytime was that big of an issue, but I also walk in the evening time, and I don't walk on the plaza now anymore because I've had some this is years of me walking, and I'll have to say the Creamery District, I had a guy that was walking towards me, and he had a loose dog, and I just knew it was trouble. So I walked across the street. The guy chased me down, screaming, and basically he said, "Am I going to hell?" And I said, "No, you're not going to hell." And then he said, "If you hadn't said that, I was going to beat the shit out of you." And then I had two other incidents on the plaza store, looking in the window. A guy sort of over by City Council on F Street started screaming, yelling, ran after me, caught up to me. I turned around, said, "Can I help you?" And then a third one, another time, that basically almost at the cafe across from the plaza, he had a mask on, glasses, a hat, and came up to me and said, "I'm going to beat the shit out of you and I'm going to smash your face in." And so I personally don't go to the plaza in the evening time. And I see that we had two officers here now, and I'd rather see the officers like on the plaza right now, because if people are going around looking for eating, I don't know if they're having these kinds of experiences, but it's kind of a little unnerving out there. So that's my input. If you want to succeed, you also have to make people feel safe to go to all these places.
Thank you very much, Joanne.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I sent the council members an email on Sunday, I think. I hope you all saw it. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to send emails to you so that you're not in violation of the Brown Act by responding to me somehow. But like I say, I hope you saw it, because I really am supportive of exposing Humboldt as a place to visit and a place to live and to have a good time and to be community and to just appreciate what exists here and to share it with those who are visiting. I know we don't have a visitor council anymore for the county, is my understanding, and so this seems to be something to fill in for that, which is great. I do want to say that I met a man who's working on a project for the university, and he and I were at Roman's food truck together, and he's from Riverside, and he had just gone up to Lady Bird Johnson on his break, and so we were talking about this whole area. And so first of all, people are going to be coming here doing work, so don't lose them in terms of they're staying at the hotels and things like that. So even the workers and stuff, trying to encourage them. But one of the things I really want people who come here and who live here to know, and I know it may sound like a broken record, everybody, but we need to be better about showing off our sustainability ethic here. And that involves the reusables, like Brighton Green was used at the Friday night markets, dotting the landscape so beautifully, and everybody really starting to get it. And it's really an important step for this community. And the other issue is transportation. I'm going tomorrow to the Planning Commission for the county, who's going to discuss the Regional Climate Action Plan. And everything that we're going to be doing in the future is going to be looked at through the lens of the Regional Climate Action Plan and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. So promoting carpooling, promoting bicycling, all those kinds of things for these events, so that this man I talked to today will come back here and put up the solar panels in the parking lot on the university, and also know that he can drink out of a reusable cup. He can rent an electric bicycle or another bicycle. He can walk through the community forest and do all these things that are exceptional for the county and the city of Arcata. So do not forget that sustainability ethic at all. It's one of the best things you could promote in Choose Humboldt.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Meredith Mayer. I'm your new executive director of the Arcata Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also the board president of Humboldt Maid. And I'm just here to thank you for the opportunity. Humboldt Maid's been doing incredible work, bringing together collaborative spirit with the chambers and the cities and municipalities. And I'm proud to be part of both. And I'm on day 5 of my new job as the director of the chamber. But I look forward to working with you all more. And I'm super excited about this opportunity. And I know that our local businesses are too. So thanks for the opportunity.
So thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Hi, as a follow-on, I wanted to say that now some of those same people who are worried about going to hell, it's gotten so bad, they're in here now asking you guys to establish a sister city with Gaza. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That wasn't quite on topic, but okay. And is there anyone on Zoom?
No.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to bring it back to the council. We have a motion. And so all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, everybody says aye, all 4 people.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to ask if
Yes,
you'd.
all of us say aye, and there's no nays. And now we can bring back our council member for this next item on the agenda. So thank you very much, Humboldt Maid. We appreciate it. And thank you for coming, all of you, on this item.
And great job for your first run through.
So now we're going to go on to initiate adoption of a comprehensive update of the city's local coastal program, statutory exemptions from California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines, section 15265. May we have a staff report, please?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor. I unfortunately have to ask for a continuation of this hearing item because we're still working with the Coastal Commission to resolve some policy conflicts. When I was here last and continued to this date, I informed you at that time that the Coastal Commission has identified some policy conflicts that can't be resolved after we submit the application. Specifically, they're working with us to resolve some of the challenges around our sea level rise policies that are looking to protect Zone 1. And so we've been working diligently with them since our last meeting, and we just aren't quite there yet. I've asked for timeline from them, and it's difficult because there are so many different folks involved in their side in these reviews. But they are meeting actually, I think they met today with their executive team to go over our project. So I hope by, our next meeting, I think they're meeting next Wednesday. I'm hoping by our next meeting the following Tuesday that we'll have some guidance and direction from their team that we'll be able to make some real progress on those matters. So I am happy to, well, actually, let me share one thing with you. Just to get you oriented and the public oriented to the update process, I wanted to identify that if you go to our webpage and you go to local coastal program update, which is found through our planning page, and you follow these links here right at the top, you'll be able to see the most current drafts that we're working on in exchanges between Coastal Commission and the city. We're identifying those with a draft date, so you'll know which draft date it is. We're only going to keep up the most recent draft dates, so if folks want to download them to keep a record, they can. And within those, we're using the track changes form so people can quickly find the sections of the code or the sections of the local coastal element that have changed and that we're working on with coastal staff. This particular example from the accessory dwelling unit code section, I can tell you already is outdated. We've had conversations with the Coastal Commission, and they've indicated to us that they still want changes to these, and we're talking through what those would be. But this is just an example of how you're going to see this information come out, so folks can track it on our website. A couple other key changes that I wanted to draw your attention to that are coming forward, very minor changes on the mapping This is over on Spear and Janes. This is Spear, Janes. We changed all of the zoning for these residential parcels to residential medium, and we had a mapping error where we just didn't catch this last little block of parcels. Many of these parcels are already built out at residential medium density, and so we're bringing to the Planning Commission for their recommendation and ultimately to the City Council for adoption this slight map amendment. So that, again, is very minor, but change nonetheless. Another change that we're bringing forward is the new coastal commercial visitor serving overlay that we have on South G Street. This is Samoa here. It's oftentimes hard to read a map without the markers, but here's South G and H streets. And so the idea here is to make that area a coastal commercial visitor serving overlay that would give additional land uses that would, inspire like, recreation, visitation, that sort of thing. The city manager was very interested in seeing the Little Lake parcel included in this as well. And so we're expanding that to Little Lake as well. So just adding in those additional parcels there. So those are the minor map amendments that you'll see coming forward. The LCP adoption timeline here, Planning Commission reviewed it last night, almost the exact same content you're hearing today. You're hearing it today, and we're asking for continuations for both those meetings. The Planning Commission will be reviewing these as business items over the course of the next several months. And this is actually into February of 26, not 25. And again, in February of 26 is when the Planning Commission extended its hearing to, not February of 25. And we're going to ask you to extend your hearing to March 4th, 2026 to formally continue this item. I do have additional content I can share with you. I can tell you that it's the exact same thing I shared with the Planning Commission last night, and I would probably encourage folks to go watch that content instead of redoing it here tonight, unless you're really interested in hearing that again. And with that, I'd suggest you open the public comment portion of the hearing and take public comment.
And so would you just change it to 26, public hearing to 1726?
Yeah, your action is going to be to continue to March 4th,
I know,
2026.
but I was just looking at the date above. Well, never mind, forget it.
I'm sorry, multiple people were talking to me at the same time. I didn't hear your
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry. I just thought maybe February 1st is in 2026.
Correct.
So if you want to change the date, that's all I said.
I can't change the date right
Oh,
now.
you can't? Oh, I thought I swore, I
It's
thought.
not a text box,
I thought
it's
I saw another date change, but nevertheless. Okay, so are there any comments from council before we open public comment? Anyone like to speak on this from the city council? I mean, from the city people in the audience, please come forward. If there's anyone else that would like to speak after that, would you please step forward? Thank you.
Okay, you received, I think, 2 letters from this package, one from the fire district and one from myself. The one from the fire district, I wanted to point out something I didn't really know, that some of the folks up in Trinidad, that I guess have a little bit more money than folks in Arcata, went to court because the Coastal Commission basically approved a hotel that was like 4 stories there. And so, it's interesting because some of the things that happened during the gateway process too was that, questions were brought up to you as like, you just can't say sprinklers are going to do the trick and have fire hydrants, and you actually have to have, the personnel, the extra personnel and the equipment. And this is how the judge ruled. So that was overturned. They're not allowed to go ahead with that at this point. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because that's a precedent that's, a lot of folks would feel like that's what the situation is Arcata right now. So I just want to make sure you're clear about that, because if something was built, that 4 to 7 story range right at this moment, potentially the city would be liable big time with a lawsuit. So let's respect that judge's ruling and move forward with that. And as far as my information I sent with the newest studies that these universities came together with, we have a large earthquake, and Humboldt Bay, unfortunately, is one of the worst places if we were to have that could drop up to 8 feet in a lot of these zones. So I requested you guys to make sure that the Coastal Commission is taking a look at that scenario, because everything was kind of focused on the gradual sea level rise into the future and not if something dramatically could happen. And it could happen. It could be, 2 years from now, it could be 100 years from now. We don't really know, but we need to be prepared for that. So, so I would say in the fire district's letter, they asked you to, go with what their recommendation was, with which to meet their specifications, not to be building at this time 4 to 7-story construction, because they're not going to be able to service this. It's a safety issue. People are going to die if we go ahead and do that. So please respect what the professionals have said to you. Please respect what a judge has said. Please respect what the scientists have put out there. And if you don't follow those things, you're going to have troubles with the Coastal Commission.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please. Are there any other speakers? Okay, do we have anyone on Zoom? Okay. Well, we have an item on the agenda which... Okay, do you want to speak on this agenda item, or did you want to speak on the green folk? Please do. Please do.
Okay, thanks. On the southern part of G, did you say that was going to be mixed residential, commercial? Because I know there are a lot of residences over there, and right now, at least where I live, it's medium density residential. What was that again?
So we can't ask questions to
Oh, that's
staff.
okay, then I'll let it go.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyone on Zoom?
No.
All right, so I'm going to bring it back to the council. So at this moment, we have a motion on the floor.
No, do I need to make a motion to continue? Do I need to make a motion to continue this
Yes,
item?
we do.
To
We need to, yeah, I'm
March?
sorry. We've had so many motions. I'm sorry. Yes.
So I will make a motion to continue this to March 4th, 2026.
I will
Thank you.
second.
May I
Any discuss-
interrupt real quick?
I'm sorry.
Just with continuing the public hearing, we need to make sure we have the location certain as well.
Okay.
Just to make sure I have this down correct, would that be continuing the public hearing to March 4th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the council chamber?
Yes, that.
Yes, is that
I second.
agreeable? Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, so now we're going to go on to oral and written communications. The city values your comments, and the public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss and take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. Thank you.
Now
And
maybe
you
the
want us to
package?
pass out those green folders.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Go ahead. You-
Okay. My name is George Green at 211G. I bought 10/30/2015. My issue is the 3-unit multifamily apartment project at 210H Street, built starting in 2016. The owners also own the apartment adjacent to the south. But unlike that apartment, which had parking in the rear, the project had parking lot in the front with a 2-story park looming over my backyard, blocking out sunsets, but enabling theirs. See the images of both places from front and the rear in the packet. This location was a violation of the municipal code, which doesn't allow a structure like this to have a parking lot seen from the street. This was allowed even though the city informed the Historical Design Review Committee of the infraction and recommended rear parking. Also, there were violations of the more stringent coastal guide. For instance, no written notice was given to me or posted on the site, which was shortly after, with the building shortly after I moved in. There were also 2 meetings I missed regarding approval of the project on 12/9/15 and 1/13/16 due to the lack of notice. There are videos of the meetings, and I hope the council can see them. The apartment was built within my setback by over 1.5 feet of the 10-foot setback called by the coastal guide, and the 2-to-1 height to setback ratio that the coastal guide uses, which is more rigorous than the 5 feet of the municipal code. This was verified by the project surveyor, the encroachment. At the meeting on 1/13/16, the planner of the project said a little error was made and their parcel was 125 feet long, not 135 feet. They thought, as they thought, it was still approved. I filed numerous complaints and David Lawyer responded to me at 9/20/16 in a letter stating that the project was in the categorical exclusion zone, which I found out recently it wasn't, resulting in my lack of notice, and that it did not require a coastal development permit, which it did as indicated by the Coastal Commission memorandum in the packet. David reiterated what Otker stated on 12/9/15. They were both wrong. Unfortunately, I signed a reduced setback option on 7/6/17. Okay. It's in the packet, so that's the best I can do.
So thank you very much. We'll share this with you. Our next speaker, please.
Thank you again. I just wanted to bring up, we've heard about that big, beautiful bill that from the federal government, which isn't really a beautiful bill at all. And part of the reason we have a shutdown is, the folks, Democrats, are trying to restore Medi-Cal and Obamacare. So I just want to make sure you're like totally aware that the fact that, over 30% of your population here is on Medi-Cal, so they're very poor and they're under threat right after the midterms. I think it's going to kick into effect that there's going to be a lot of rule changes, a lot of things going on with the state where people are they're going to lose their benefits. So I just want to make sure that you're really sensitive to that because, just sort of things that I've seen tonight with what's happening with, our rates. And I looked it up from like 5 years ago, and you have to realize that 5 years ago, I think first 3 years it was 10%, 10%, 10%, 8%, 8%. That was 5 years ago for the water and sewer. So now we're going on top of that. And it looked like, we were like number one from the standpoint of in the area that's with the highest rates. So, and then we take a look at PG&E, what's been going on with PG&E. I think I've read that, only Hawaii has higher rates than what we have too. So people are really going to, unfortunately, and I'm just being honest, they're going to be hurting if this all happens. And, I'm rooting for you guys to really be aware of that and do things that are helping people because, over the years, I have given you a hard time whenever you've raised, different permits every year it just happens and, it's an automatic thing. And you have to think about, what has happened to our country too, from the standpoint, and there's a lot of people that were, Democrats that were more conservative and just have felt that they were left out and not taken care of, and they jumped ship, and we're in a really bad situation now. And I don't even know what to say about it, but I just trying to speak to you that you think about that and you're very sensitive to what's happening in the future here, and because I think it's going to be a really tough. And PBS NewsHour had a thing on this last night that the very wealthy they're doing fantastic, and they're kind of driving the economy right now, and everyone else is clipping coupons and trying to save every little penny. So please, be aware of that and take action. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, please.
Okay, my name is Ella. I'm from Arcata, and I really was hoping I wouldn't have to speak tonight. But as the sister city issue has not been put to rest, here I am. I could give you 100 reasons why my beautiful Arcata should not be a sister city to the terrorist city of Gaza, but I only have time for a few. First, this is the United States of America. This is not Palestine. It's not Israel either. I am a tax-paying citizen of this country. The Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition has a Palestine flag as their banner. I question whether they and their followers are even American citizens. I really question that. If they were, they would know that our culture respects all religions, even Judaism. Palestine doesn't, and they have sworn to annihilate all Jews. Is this what they want? Is this what the Peace and Justice Coalition wants? Secondly, if this city council would actually pass such a resolution, they'd be putting the safety and security of many of their tax-paying citizens at risk because of the way they worship. As one of the council members stated 2 years ago, and I quote, "The council members' mission is for the safety and security of all Arcata citizens." Has that changed in any way? The Palestine supporters are hateful, violent, and ugly. If you don't believe me, listen again to the city council meeting of August the 6th. It was hard to listen to. The F word was against the city council member 18 times before they stopped it, besides all the other ugly things they threatened. Maybe you council members think you have to put up with this, but I don't. I would like to ask an important question of each and every one of you within earshot of my voice. Why do you hate the Jews so much? What have they ever done to you personally? And I'm not asking about what someone else may have told you, but what were you so easy to convince that the Jews are the bad guys? Why? Why were you so easy to convince? And by the way, history was not my major in college, but I bet I know more about Israeli history than most people in this room, except for my daughter. She lived there. My best course in college was logic, which I'm not even sure they teach anymore. What a shame. I think logic should be the first subject taught. I am vehemently opposed to a sister city with the terror city of Gaza. And since I have a couple seconds left, I just wanted to tell you in the last, between 23 and 24, there have been over 10,000 anti-Semitic attacks in the United States alone. And how many by Jews on other people? None, not a single one, all against the Jews. And you want to make this a sister city by the people that hate us? Why would you want to do this? Why would you want to do this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, please.
Hello, my name's Joanne McGarry. I bring this around this time every year. It's my go bag. We're going to have the duck cover hold on exercise in a few days. So just a reminder, Gregory Daggett brought up the fact that we're in heavy duty earthquake country. I'm really impressed by what Kuna and Vice Mayor White are doing up in Valley West in North Arcata about disaster preparedness. When I sent you my email, I was talking about including important things when we have events. And maybe we really do need to incorporate, along with the beer, wine, food, and shopping efforts with Choose Humboldt, show that we are prepared for what's to come. Like I said, I'm going to the Climate Action meeting tomorrow for the County Planning Commission, and I'll be learning some stuff there. So my second thing I want to talk about, so I'll get rid of this, is I rode out to where the new solar farm is that had a ribbon cutting with RCEA. It's apparently not inside the city, but it's right next to the city. It's an interesting solar complex, solar plant panels. They're short and low to the ground. The future might be incorporating more agro solar, so livestock and or crops can be grown in the same fields where there are solar panels. It seems to be disappointing that that was not done with that property. We need to think differently and combine things and braid things together. So that's my second concern, that these things are going up and then we're applauding them, but why didn't they think about these other aspects? So in the 1 minute I have left, I will bring up the topic that I always feel I need to bring up, and that is what is happening across the world in Palestine, and especially in Gaza. And just a reminder that for 2 years, this topic has been brought up at this meeting. And if you were to go back and research the early meetings of this topic that was presented by people at this podium, it would be quite enlightening to hear what was said 2 years ago. This was passed in March of 2024, the ceasefire resolution. We now have a resolution on humanitarian aid flow. I was able to communicate with Wind Beaver from Orleans, who is part of the Global Samud Flotilla, and he was kidnapped on his boat trying to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. I'm hopeful that our resolution can really have some teeth to it, and we can get that aid in there and insist that it happen.
Thank you very
One day,
much.
everyone will always be against this.
Our next speaker, please.
Hello, Council. Dave Meserve. I'm here to talk about the resolution that I sent you folks, which is basically in support of cities that are fighting the federal government, sending armed forces into their cities. And this is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Arcata declaring support for cities occupied by federal troops on executive order of the President of the United States, despite these cities' efforts to prevent such military occupations. Whereas the President has deployed or is threatening to deploy National Guard or other federal troops to Washington, D.C., LA, Chicago, Portland, and other cities for the declared purpose of quelling insurrection and stopping out-of-control violence. And whereas the demonstrations opposing already deployed Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE forces, have been largely nonviolent, and any aggressive actions by demonstrators have been efficiently controlled by local law enforcement. And whereas these cities and states are filing legal actions to stop the deployment of federal troops to their cities, and whereas National Guard or federal troops should only be deployed to cities in the case of natural disasters or actual violence that threatens the safety of human lives and cannot be handled by law enforcement. And whereas the Posse Comitatus Act specifically states that federal troops may not participate in civilian law enforcement, except in the case of actual insurrection, or unless doing so is expressly requested by local authorities. And whereas the federal military deployments are being justified by exaggeration, propaganda, and outright lies regarding the severity of the situation in the subject cities. And whereas the President has indicated that if he loses the pending court cases, he will invoke the Insurrection Act and enable military occupation of cities. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby expresses its support for the occupied city's legal efforts to prevent or terminate the deployment of the National Guard or federal troops to their cities. Be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Arcata pledges to take all possible effective action to prevent any future deployment of National Guard or federal troops to the City of Arcata or other cities. And be it further resolved that the City of Arcata, as a sanctuary city, does not welcome the presence of ICE forces in our city. So this is the resolution I'm presenting to you. I hope that you will bring it forward at the next council meeting and consider passing it. I think it's really important that we join with other cities, and a bunch of us put out the word that we're standing with the cities who don't want the military in their communities.
Thank you so much. Our
Thank
next
you.
speaker, please.
My name's Jody and I live in Arcata. First, I want to address a comment made at the last city council meeting where someone made a remark about where are all the Jews now as a racial slur. I will tell you where we were. We were observing our holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur. We were praying for the return of our hostages. We were praying for an end to the war. We were praying for peace while you were here making sarcastic anti-Semitic comments. My prayers were answered, and the hostages are almost all home, and the peace terms have now been set. Several truths have been released since the ceasefire. The day after the hostages were released, the UN, less than a month since they claimed starvation, now admits that they have and have had enough food for at least 3 months already in Gaza. There was never a famine. That was a PR propaganda campaign by Hamas and their funders, part of their PSYOPs war. This city council bought it hook, line, and sinker, and even passed a resolution demanding aid be given that was already there and continuing to come in. Photos and videos of Gazans show no starvation at all. In fact, there is a yearly report listing the 100 most obese places in the world, and Gaza is number 13 on that list. Even more information came out just 2 days ago. It was stated that out of 67,000 deaths in Gaza, at least 40,000 deaths are combatants. Another 12,000 deaths are statistical natural deaths for a population that size. So, not a genocide, just another PR propaganda trick to make people hate Israel and Jews. I am absolutely opposed to the Arcata Gaza City Sister City proposal. Why are you entertaining this proposal at all? Just say no and stop this constant invasion of our city council by people who insist on it. Sister cities are about culture sharing. This proposal is not about sharing cultures. Even now, since the ceasefire, Gazans chant that they want all Jews dead and death to America. The current culture of Gaza is just not compatible with Arcata's culture and beliefs. The Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition wants you to legitimize laundering money through an NGA to the Palestinian Authority, a recognized terrorist group who pays people to kill Jews and Israelis. That is not only illegal, but it's also a civil rights violation.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker, please.
Okay. I, Jeffrey Harris, was born in Sacramento, spent 3 years in Eureka, and in Nome, El Dorado County. So, cry-bully leftists, being so enamored of victimology, when they find suitable real subjective classes are lacking, feel free to create them. Such make-believe identity groups include men pretending to be women and a motley crew of itinerant Arabs, Canaanites, Philistines, etc. Many of these have taken on the false appellation of Palestinian in order to interfere with the reestablishment of the State of Israel. The people of Israel are not only also indigenous to the region, but in many cases have maintained a continuous presence therein for many centuries since the casting down of the temple by the Romans around the time of Christ. Now, there is no place called Palestine. There never has been, and there never will be. The very idea, neither are there any Palestinians. The very idea of their existence is entirely a pernicious fantasy. There is no such land, city, state, language, history, cuisine, or anything else that defines a culture, a set of customs, a family, clan, tribe, confederation, principality, country, or any of the other numerous political organizations known to man. Rather, what happened is that at the conclusion of World War I, which led to the fall of 5 empires, including that of the Ottoman Turks, the British came into possession of their territories, some of which The Brits then administered as the Mandate of Palestine. Then, inspired by Soviet meddling, that Egyptian Yasser Arafat in 1964 concocted the lie of Palestinianism to counter the reestablishment of the millennia-old Israeli nation. The so-called Palestinians didn't even take on that appellation until the defeat of a number of Arab nations in the Six-Day War of June 1967. Up until that time, they were content to call themselves Jordanians, Lebanese, Syrians, Egyptians, etc. These entities never wanted an actual independent state of their own, but rather were only dedicated to destroying Israel. Fortunately, unlike the Russian Cossacks and the German SS and Einsatzgruppen, who were excellent fighters, the pathetic Palestinians are utterly incapable of mounting an effective resistance. They hardly even rise to the level of terrorists, being little more than perennial nuisances. Pathetic, incapable nuisances are what these so-called Palestinians are. These also, there is no such thing as the West Bank. Rather, that territory consists of Judea and Samaria. It is all part of Israel. Not only will these lands be reintegrated into Israel, but on August 12, 2025, Netanyahu received an amulet from Sharon Gott indicating what will become Greater Israel, lands that include Jordan, Lebanon, much of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Syria. I feel particularly inspired by this gift, as my mother's mother, Adele Morse, made amulets to keep her relatives from succumbing to the flu of 1919. And I will say tongue-in-cheek that when the Third Temple is reestablished, that will connect to the Jewish space lasers and amplify our communications abilities via amulets. People believe all sorts of crap, so
Thank you very
can
much.
believe that if you want.
Our next speaker, please.
Hello, my name's Trisha Murphy. I'm here to voice my support for Sister City with Arcata. I also support boycotting Israel products as a peaceful way to stop the Israelis' genocide through boycott, divest, and sanction. And there's another group called No Food for Genocide. A list of both those groups are available on YouTube or anywhere
Could
you
you
go online.
not whisper, please, so we can listen to our speaker?
Can I reclaim my time?
Yes, you're fine. Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
We'll make sure.
The polls show that support for Israel is in the single digits amongst Democrats, and it's now a majority of Republicans who do not support Israel. And that number is growing, and especially with younger conservatives who haven't spent a lifetime being propagandized. Yet our politicians on both sides of the aisle continue to send money to Israel for the genocide. And what's wrong with that picture? The people don't want to do this. Americans want to get out from under the $3.8 billion we send to Israel. And then the other countries like Egypt and Lebanon and Jordan, who we also pay just to keep them in line to not go against Israel, because what Israel is doing is wrong. It's evil. There's been so much death and destruction, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank. There's pogroms going on in the West Bank, modern day pogroms in 2025. And it's not just that the Zionists came in 48 and 67 and stole land, but they continued to steal land, and they're continuing to this day to steal land. Israel has more UN condemnations than any other country in the world combined. I don't know if you guys know that. But because of our politicians, we continue to send money to Israel, and our politicians have been bought and paid for by Israel. There's a website called Track APAC, and you can see how many hundreds of thousands, and in some cases of some Congress people, millions they've taken from Israel, and they're indebted to them, and they have to toe the line for them, even though what's happening is wrong. And it's hurting our country, it's hurting our security. We're a target for so much. I would like to support a sister city as just one thing we can do to try to amend the wrongs we've done, that we paid for.
Thank you very much. So who do we have on Zoom? Do we have people on Zoom?
We have 2 hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Dan, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Dan Shaheen.
Yes.
Hey, I'm just calling in. I wish I could be there in person, but I couldn't make it. I'm glad I'm listening in though, because to hear the same tired genocide deniers come up here and spout such hateful rhetoric about not just Palestinians, but hateful rhetoric about the Jewish people who support Palestinians in this community. Some of my best friends love Jews as much as I love my Palestinian brothers and sisters and everyone in between. Everyone in this here around here wants love. Every voice that spoke out in favor of the sister city tonight was a voice of love. The only voices of anger, hate, and division you heard were those of genocide deniers and hateful voices. Now, I don't know what religion those people were. I could make a guess. I mean, some of them kind of stated it, but I was the person that lady referenced, I think, who said something sarcastic about Jews. She said, but I didn't mention Jews at all at the last meeting. This is just another form of conflation of anti-Semitism with anti-Israel. Right? We love Jewish people. This is a community that is diverse and tolerant and loving. We embrace diversity. So there is no hatred of Jews going on here. What's happening here is a love of humanity and what we see before our eyes. You saw someone got up here tonight and said that the Gazans were too obese. And another came up and said that we don't even exist. My family has 500 years of history in the West Bank of Palestine. So I would love to hear what the city council has to say about these things. People get up here. If someone were to come up here and deny the Holocaust, I know that people would speak out against it. If someone were to come up here and deny the existence of another group of indigenous people, I would like to think somebody would speak out against those voices, because I know that the council, you can respond to these statements. When you choose silence, it makes a lot of people think that maybe you agree with those voices. We heard them tonight, 3 people that we've seen again and again and again. Can you imagine taking the time out of your life to come out, not to advocate for saving children, but for killing them and starving them? I just can't think. I can't imagine anybody whose time is so worthless that they would do that. It's kind of pathetic, and it's really sad. And I hope that the council.
Thank you for your comments. And our next speaker, please.
Sherry, please go ahead.
Good evening. Here's a quote from a recent email sent by Senator Mike McGuire. Due to recent federal action taken by the President and Congress, more than $187 billion in federal SNAP food benefits have been cut nationwide, resulting in a $3 to $5 billion cut to California annually. This means food banks across the state are in crisis mode, and millions of the most vulnerable across America are now at risk. Senator McGuire is holding a virtual town hall tomorrow night at 6 p.m. addressing this issue. I hope everyone attends. This week, after the ceasefire agreement was signed, Philippe Lazzarini, the head of UNRWA, announced that they currently have 3 months' worth of food aid in Gaza. The hungry people of Arcata and Humboldt County certainly could have benefited from the $9,000 effectively sent to Hamas by the sister city proponents. Why don't they care about their own community? City Council, please turn your attention to local issues. Please do not consider the ill-conceived Gaza sister city boondoggle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I assume we don't have any other speakers on Zoom?
That is correct.
We do?
No more
Okay,
speakers.
Thank you. I'll bring this back to the council then. And so we'll get council reports. And why don't we start down with you, Meredith?
Okay, I had my first Access Humboldt meeting today, so I'm really excited about being a part of that wonderful institution. So I'm looking
Well,
forward
and
to
thank
that.
you for agreeing to do that.
Yeah,
because you're
it's
the
an honor. I
representative
think they're
for,
doing some
all of Humboldt County.
really amazing things. They're nonpartisan. They do some really great things for the community. And I want to publicly apologize to Dan. I did call you out at the last meeting, and I'm so glad we had a conversation after. That was not okay. A lot of what has been going on at these meetings have not been okay. It's gotten really, really toxic, and people are saying some just horrible things, and that's all. That's all.
Okay, Kimberly.
Let's see. Got to do my very first trip to the California League of Cities. It was pretty awesome. Is that better? All right. I got to do my first trip to California League of Cities. It was pretty awesome, very informational. Wanted to say that we have on Friday, October 24th at 6 p.m. Kuna's doing a What's Cooking, which is a pro bono culinary arts program. All are welcome, and it is free. We will also be hosting HumCart, which is Humboldt Community Animal Response Team. So learn how to do disaster preparedness for your precious pets. And that will be on Saturday, the 25th. Just want to remind everybody that we also do a ballet terapia and yoga, which is dance therapy. That is every Tuesday at 6:30. And then since Joanne had mentioned about some more disaster preparedness, we are gearing up for our very first anniversary, 1 year at our Resilience Hub, and we will be combining that with our 3rd annual disaster preparedness block party. We will be giving away thousands of dollars of disaster preparedness supplies. We'll be giving out both adult and children's backpacks, and like everything we do, it's free. It's our gift to the community. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you. And we'll go to Sarah.
I actually really, the only thing I would have to report was already kind of spoken about, but the ribbon cutting of the Foster solar project down off Foster Avenue in Arcata, outside of the city limits. But very exciting. And there are some special features though of that have bee habitats built in to part of the paneling, like the foundation. So interesting thing of at least trying to bring a couple things together. The second thing I will say, just to again generally respond to the public, there has been a lot of hateful things, and I hope that our council members and the community can use their reasoning abilities to be able to look at what has been being reported in the news and not to fall on some people that I see in the audience snickering and rolling their eyes when we are talking about children that are dying. That is not a thing to be snickering and laughing about. It is a terrible thing that is happening in our world. There is prevalent violence, and it is especially taking place in Palestine right now. So,
And Stacy.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is a bit ridiculous, but I actually have to say that I wrote this out ahead of time because people are so hypersensitive to what we say. When I touch on a subject matter that was brought up earlier in public comments, it's going to be put together that I am supporting, one side, the other. I am not. And we respond very little up here because until you sit in these seats and understand the responsibility, I don't think that you should judge our reactions. If you watch Eureka City Council meetings from long ago, before this particular issue, there was horrible things said, very inappropriate things said, and the council doesn't reply. It's very limited. If we replied every time somebody said something that we vehemently disagreed with, it would be a very inappropriate situation in here. So I want to make it clear, unless you've had a conversation with us, unless you've seen us vote on something, then you don't know what's going on with us. So don't mistake our silence on any issue in here, especially if it's on public comment, for taking a side to it. That's just misreading into a lot of things. So I think we vote on things, we make our actions pretty clear what we're planned to do or not do. Look at our votes, look at our discussions up here. That's where you can draw your conclusions. So I I did also join my colleagues at Cal Cities, and it was great to be there with several people from our city and others in the community. We were all inspired and learned a lot. I did not. I didn't officially take place in the week without driving. Like commit to it and try that. As I've said before, I know with the schedule I lead that it wouldn't work, and that is speaking to the needs that we do have in transportation. So was unable to alter my schedule to make it work. I will say though that our transportation is greatly improved from what it used to be when I was much younger here. I've been helping a student at College of the Redwoods navigate the bus system, and it's actually impressive how often the bus circles through there. So we're making great improvements, and yes, we still have a ways to go. But I did do something in honor of that week on the last day that I've been wanting to do. But my husband and I got one of the city bikes, and we rented it, and we rode to Eureka, and we ate breakfast and rode back. And it's like a solid hour ride to get there and get back. And I really would advocate for power assist. Should we ever have that in our budget, it would make it a little more accessible. But we did it. And so I was happy to do that. And it was really fun. And I would encourage people that can to do it. You will not believe how many people that you see on the trail that you know. Also, the EOPA, Elected Officials to Protect America, which is a lot of things focusing on the climate. They held an important meeting yesterday at the Harbor District offices. It was a discussion, a couple hours of presentations on the importance of our port development and keeping that moving forward. It was really worth the time to be there, and I appreciate them coming into our community regularly to support the port development. Today, we did have a homeless services working group, and it's already been brought up, so the ice has kind of been broken, but it is very serious. So what we learned today was that CalFresh and WIC will be, while the government is shut down, I don't know the exact dates, but it will be ending soon, that funding. I believe the county's putting out a press release tomorrow, I think, and it sounds like Senator McGuire will. It is very serious. We do have food banks in our community. Part of the problem is folks that need to access those oftentimes don't know where they are not comfortable doing that. And so I think now is the time for us really to, if you're able to donate to a food bank, I'll focus here on Arcata. The Annex is one place down at our the transit station. They're open from 9 to 5 and they take donations. Even if we do get back on track with government funding and, we're getting those payments out, it's still not enough. So if we could get in the habit now in this time of crisis of really thinking about those people that need food, donating it, and then also reaching out to people that we know that might be in those situations to see how we can help them. If it's getting them to those places or delivering to them or making them more aware. I did ask the county for and Arcata House Partnership for some information to share with all of us that Merritt will when it comes through. Also some social media posts so we can get it out to our people. But this is going to be something when it happens, we've got to start now and really getting the word out and rallying so that we don't have more people in our communities starving and more children in our communities going hungry. So that it's a real thing. Also, because we are a sanctuary city and a county and a state, this is the last year for some federal funding for housing and homeless related services that we will be getting unless something changes. So there are real consequences to the protections that we've given, and I don't regret those. But I also want to be very mindful of the profile that we take with the federal government. It's very seems retaliatory a lot these days. And so I think we need to be careful in how we talk about things and what we do. And let's just really support the people here that need it. And thank you all for indulging me on this long public comment. But the homeless meeting today, it was tearful. So thank you.
Could I just piggyback on that? Wanted to let you know that Kuna does have a free food pantry, and I do deliver, and we will make appointments if it doesn't coincide with your schedule. We also just bought a new reach-in refrigerator because we do free produce days, and we have such generous donators from the farmers market. We buy produce from North Coast growers, and again, everything that we do is free.
Thank you for adding that in.
And can I just add something on a lighter note that I thought of while you were talking before we go to Alex? Sorry. And thank you for giving that update because it's really important. And I know I've had a couple of emails just about people of like, what can we do to help support? So, but totally changing the subject from that. You're talking about the week without driving reminded me that I also did not participate, but I did spend one day very heavily participating. And it was when I rode my bike to Porch Fest, and Porch Fest was amazing. And I just want to put that out to the public that I know we also did receive, I think, at least one email of somebody that was very unhappy. But the overwhelming majority of people that I talked to, both homeowners in Sunnybrae, renters in Sunnybrae, people that live there, people that had visited and gone to the community, I mean, even just the great vibe of being able to like go to my friends' backyards and barbecues and then go over next door and see a band and hear steel drums while like we're cooking up jerk chicken. Oh, it was the best thing in the world, and I loved it. And I talked to so many people that thought it was amazing, and I would love to even talk to Playhouse Arts more and see how we can do this in different neighborhoods in our community. And it was just so cool. And I encourage everybody in the future to attend it and to give your props to Playhouse because it was really wonderful.
Okay, well, that's a happy note to end things on, but I'm not going to end it right now. So one of the things I want to ask everyone, Dave Reserve, as he's still here, he asked us if we were interested in putting this on our agenda, and I wanted to see how the council felt about that. Because we're here, we can actually do that.
I feel pretty good about it, but
I want to
I
see.
concur.
you said maybe we should keep a low profile with our federal friends right now. But I do think it is, again, large, like resolutions. It can feel largely performative, but it is a small step and a small action to show solidarity.
I have thought about this because Dave did call us, and I would, before I move forward on anything, same with even Sanctuary Day. So when we were planning Sanctuary Day, I actually talked to some of the people planning at Centro del Pueblo. I think we talked about this up here. People that represent folks that are at risk. And I said, are you sure you want to do this? This could bring unwanted attention. It's fine for me. I'm not threatened. But just because I can say it doesn't mean it might bring something negative into our community for other people that could have dire consequences, and they did want to go forward with it, so I let them lead that. And so I feel the same with this. If there's outreach done to the people that are vulnerable in here that could be targeted, if we draw attention and basically invite the troops to come in because we asked them not to. If those folks want to come out and tell us that they want to do it, I will stand behind them, but I'm not comfortable without that kind of engagement.
That was really thoughtful, Stacy. I appreciate that.
So we have two people, why don't we just ask the Centro de Pueblo or whomever we think we should ask? Well, let's take it.
Yeah,
We'll take it.
I think maybe we have an Equity Arcata
We'll take it
meeting
to our
next
Arcata
Wednesday
Diversity.
and can talk to our networks of people
I
there
think
that work
that's appropriate.
That's what
very
we'll do.
closely with those affinity groups. And so
Okay, we'll
and we're
do
part of that, sanctuary planning. So happy to.
Okay, so
bring it up.
that'll go there. So more to come on that. And I wanted to say that Flash Vote came out and it was sent out in email to all of us. And I'm assuming everyone's encouraging people to sign up for a Flash Vote. And so that we can use that. I don't know if it's been used yet in the city of Arcata. I mean, within staff to check it out and see how it works or not. But it'll be something we can start to use in the community. Did you want to address that?
Only if you want me to.
Well, you can.
Yeah, so we worked with staff to come up with our first survey, and really the first survey is kind of a softball just to get people oriented to the tool, and really the idea is to survey a large segment of our population that normally we wouldn't hear from. So We designed the first survey to really look at how's the city doing, what things do we need to improve on, and just to get used to the people used to the survey format. So we finished that at our level, sent a draft over to our folks at Flash Vote. They're going to take a look at it and try to make it a more scientific based survey. And so that should be coming out in the near future. So yes, go to the city's website, look at Flash Vote, please sign up. We want as much input as possible on that.
So thank you. I've been sending it out to people, asking them to please sign up and pass it on to their friends, because so that we could have more people coming forward on that. I did attend the Cal Cities meeting down in Long Beach with three other council members. There were 4 of us there. And I attended the homeless services meeting. And one of the things I know that Arcata House will take, and that is canned goods that you actually can yourself. So, the food bank won't take any food that has been home prepared, but Arcata House will take that. So if you have canned peaches or canned whatever it might be, they will, pardon me?
I was asking if Kuna take those too. And it's apple season, so bring one down. We're going to do big cider press.
Okay, so they will take applesauce, etc. So I just wanted to point that out as another item. And the other thing is we have to remember how Rotary for so long has been doing backpacks for kids. And sometimes that is the one thing that the family lives on over the weekend. And they do that. Sunrise Rotary does that every morning, every time they meet once a week on Friday morning for that. I just wanted to point that out. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that there's a lot of comments going on right now about Cal Poly Humboldt and the new parking on Foster. And I'm wondering if there's any possibility that we could get more information on that at the council level, because I read in the paper today that I'm one of the people to contact about that if you're unhappy. So I'm just thinking, my name was right there, Mayor. It said right there. They listed other people, but I was one of them. You all weren't, so lucky. So, and I'm just thinking it might be nice to have that come forward and try to figure out what's going on. There's a lot of concerns and how is it going to operate and when does it start, etc. I'd like to have that as a report.
Sure, I'd be happy to ask engineering community development to bring that back. And right now they're treating it like a development project, and they've provided comments as they would for any development project. Usually those don't go to council unless there's some kind of discretionary action, but be happy to ask the departments to come back and give a summary of what's happening there, or alternatively, if you wanted to take a look at that beforehand and decide, come see me.
It's because I see it from every different angle where people are driving this way, that way, all these different ways. And so I'm just thinking it'd be interesting for us to have more information. Also, the Phillips House Museum, which is a city-owned building but managed by the Historical Site Society of Arcata, are having a sale on Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 3, and anything that's remaining from that in the way of clothing, etc., will be going to Arcata House, because they have a great need right now for women's clothing and for men's clothing. So if you know anyone out there or you have extra clothes, they'd be more than happy to take them at the annex between 10 and 5. So thank you all. And with that, I think the meeting is adjourned.